Chapter 2753. None of the leaders dared to disobey Jin Hong's orders. This was not only because of Jin Hong's identity as the Grand Exalt's successor, but more importantly, they had all received orders from their seniors to follow Jin Hong's orders when they entered the world of the fallen beast. The hundreds of thousands of people began to move. After confirming their position, they slowly approached the barrier 100 kilometers away. The energy of the world of the fallen beast was the densest within the barrier. The life-devouring beast did not dare to approach it at all. However, once they left the barrier, the energy of the world of the fallen beast would thin out and become the life-devouring beast's territory. They would be in danger at all times. Even though the hundreds of thousands of people were all godhood cultivators and could cross 100 kilometers in the blink of an eye, it felt like an eternity to them right now. In particular, as they approached the barrier, some of the prodigies among them could not help but begin to tremble. Their intense fear of the life-devouring beast had already filled their hearts and souls. As a result, the closer they got to the barrier, the slower they became. Hey, you clans, hurry up and catch up. If you fall behind, you'll be in danger of being wiped out by the life-devouring beast with your strength. A divine king flying at the front looked back at the groups that had fallen behind and were about to break away from the main group. He immediately burst into laughter, especially when he saw the pale faces of the leaders of the large clans. A smear of disdain appeared in his eyes. Some of the leaders of the large clans had walked out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. After going through countless trials and tribulations, they had already developed a tenacious will that was as tough as steel. Venturing into the two-world mountain was naturally not enough to scare them. At the same time, some of them were like flowers in a greenhouse. They had cultivated to the divine king realm in an extremely short amount of time with the abundant resources of their clans. They had not experienced many trials of life and death, so they were naturally scared out of their wits when faced with the threat of the life-devouring beast. I don't know what's wrong with the great elder. He actually wants me to follow Jin Hong's orders for this trip. My Lance Empire is an eternal dynasty that has existed since ancient times. I am a prince of the Lance Empire with outstanding talent, and I have cultivated to the divine king realm in 800 years. My future is limitless, but now I have to follow Jin Hong of the Ashwolf clan to my death. Jin Hong, you dare to force me? I will never forgive you. Humph! This Jin Hong thinks that he's invincible after obtaining the Grand Sovereign's inheritance. He actually dared to cross the two-world mountain. I'm afraid he hasn't seen the terror of the life-sucking beast. I'll see how you die later. Let's be careful. Once we're out of the barrier, we'll have Jin Hong block the life-sucking beast. Does he think he's so great just because he's the successor of the Grand Exalt? He'll have a good time later. Remember, if you ever encounter a life-sucking beast, don't risk your life. Let Jin Hong handle it. As soon as Jin Hong dies, we'll immediately retreat to the barrier and return to the sacred immortal realm. Many of the leaders of the factions were scheming in their hearts. Their eyes flickered as they stared at Jin Hong, who was walking at the front of the group. They gnashed their teeth in hatred, but they did not dare to show it. As soon as we leave the barrier, we'll be in the life-sucking beast's territory. We can be attacked at any time. Yang Yutian, you have to be careful later. Don't lose your life here. He Qian transmitted her voice to Jianqin from the Tianhe clan's camp with a solemn expression. In the Tianhe clan's camp, apart from the sacrificial warriors, Jianqin was the only divine king apart from He Qian. As a result, He Qian clearly valued Jianqin very much. Everyone arrived in front of the barrier very quickly. Hovering in front of the barrier, Jin Hong swept his gaze across the mountains outside the barrier. There was no fear on his face as he stepped out. Behind him was the group from the Ashwolf clan. There were close to 10,000 people. Following closely behind them were the leaders of the Sun clan, Man clan, Emperor Lotus Sword sect, and over a dozen other factions. They all led their subordinates out of the barrier fearlessly. A surging battle intent burned on all of them. Clearly, they were prepared to fight a bloody battle against the life-sucking beast. "Let's go!" He Chan called out as she led the group of people from the Tianhe clan out of the barrier. Nearly half of the people remained within the barrier. They stared at the two-world mountain shrouded in a thick layer of gray mist. Deep fear filled their faces, and they did not dare to take a single step forward. "Haha! A mere life-sucking beast is enough to scare all of you to this extent. Cowards like you should just stay in your own homes and retire peacefully. The realm of the fallen beast is not a place where you have the right to play." A prodigy who stepped out of the barrier looked at the cowardly people and mocked them without any restraint. Isn't that the prodigy of the Chu clan, Chujia? Are you injured? Why is your face so pale? Also, why are your legs trembling? You're a dignified divine king. Don't tell me you can't even stand properly?" Another genius spoke. He stared at Chujia from the Chu clan with a face full of ridicule. He was the prodigy of the Hai clan, Haigi. The Hai clan and the Chu clan had been enemies for generations. Now that he had the opportunity, he naturally wanted to humiliate them. Haigi, I'll let you be arrogant for now. When the life-sucking beast comes, I'll see how you die, said Chujia hatefully. He could only brace himself and step out of the barrier in the face of Haigi's mockery. Afterwards, the prodigies who were still within the barrier dilly-dallied for a while. In the end, they could not bear the humiliation and stepped out of the barrier one after another under all sorts of pressure. Immediately, all the prodigies who had entered the realm of the fallen beast this time left the barrier and stood in the two-world mountain that was under the rule of the life-sucking beast. "Oh no, my consciousness is being suppressed. What kind of power is this? It's actually suppressing my consciousness to less than 1/100th of its usual capacity." At this moment, a cry of alarm rang out. "My consciousness is being suppressed too. Damn it, my consciousness can only extend to a range of 10 miles. My consciousness has completely lost its function. It's being tightly confined within my body." Hearing these cries of alarm, Genshin frowned and immediately extended his consciousness. He discovered that although his consciousness was being suppressed, it could still extend to a range of 1,000,000 miles. 1,000,000 miles was more than enough for him to use in the two-world mountain. He would be able to scout out his surroundings and detect danger. "It's the gray fog that's affecting my consciousness. I don't know how it's formed, but I can't disperse it. It looks like this fog is no ordinary thing." Genshin quickly discovered the reason why his consciousness was being suppressed. He did not spend too much time studying the fog. Instead, he began to observe the life-sucking beast that lived here. His consciousness had already extended to a range of 1,000,000 miles. However, he did not know how vast the two-world mountain was. Even with the range of his consciousness, Genshin could not see the border of the two-world mountain. However, in his consciousness, there were many life-sucking beasts. These life-sucking beasts were of all shapes and sizes. There were all kinds of species. Some looked like tigers, leopards, and some looked like various ancient beasts. There were even some life-sucking beasts that lived in the two-world mountain in the form of vegetation. They blended in perfectly with the forest and were difficult to discover. However, despite their strange appearances, their auras and energy waves were exactly the same. Chapter 2754. The life-devouring beast from 20 kilometers away is shaped like a leopard, but it has 6 legs. It has clearly discovered us and is heading in our direction, Genshin thought. He had already sensed the life-devouring beast's strength with great accuracy with the powerful senses of his soul. It was basically equivalent to a late overgod, so it posed no threat to the group. However, the life-devouring beast was extremely fast. With its strength, it could cover 100 kilometers in a single instant. 20 kilometers was naturally covered in the blink of an eye. In a single moment, the 6-legged, leopard-like life-devouring beast appeared before the group. The senses of everyone's souls were suppressed in the two-world mountains. Even a few divine king realm experts could only extend their senses to a range of 10 kilometers. There was no way they could warn of the life-devouring beast at such a distance, as it would have already crossed the distance by the time they discovered it with the senses of their souls appearing before them. Roar! Immediately, the life-devouring beast let out a beastly roar. A murky, bloodthirsty light appeared in its eyes as it directly lunged at the cultivators at the outermost perimeter. Be careful, there's a life-devouring beast. It's a life-devouring beast. It's coming. It's coming. Don't panic, everyone. Let's attack together. Only when the life-devouring beast had already launched its attack did the cultivators react. Their faces changed drastically as they cried out in panic. Even a few divine king realm experts became extremely stern. They seemed extremely nervous. Immediately, over 100 people struck out at the same time. There were overgods, a few divine king realm leaders, and even over a dozen people who had been nurtured by the 100 calamity divine King Dan struck out at the same time. More than 100 attacks formed a colorful rainbow as they mercilessly attacked the life-devouring beast. Oh no, my life force is already draining away. The life-devouring beast is already devouring my life force. The moment these people launched their attacks, some of the celestial god realm martial artists in the crowd let out panicked cries. The life-sucking beast had yet to attack them, but when it was within a certain distance, their vitality began to flow uncontrollably, turning into strands of life energy that converged towards the life-sucking beast. The life-sucking beast was not the slightest bit afraid of the oncoming attacks. It suddenly twisted its body in midair, and in the blink of an eye, it had changed its direction, dodging all the attacks and diving into the crowd. In an instant, the life-sucking beast was like a wolf in a flock of sheep, scaring the surrounding cultivators into fleeing in all directions. At the same time, a large amount of vitality flowed out from the surrounding heavenly god realm cultivators, converging into the life-sucking beast's body. Before the life-devouring beast, gods were unable to lock down their life force at all. Even weaker overgods were no exception. However, the life force of an overgod was clearly depleted much more slowly than that of a god. Retreat! Don't go near that life-sucking beast. A loud shout rang out. In the distance, sword chi was like a rainbow. A sharp sword chi took the shape of a beautiful lotus as it shot through the air. The prodigy from the Emperor Lotus, Sword Sect, had struck out. At the same time, the life-sucking beast opened its bloody maw and directly bit down on a heavenly god realm martial artist. The god shrieked out miserably as his body withered at an unbelievable rate. It was as if his body had lost all its water, becoming a bag of bones. In an instant, the god died an unnatural death. All of his vitality had been devoured. On the other hand, the life-sucking beast had become slightly stronger. Bang! Only at this moment did the lotus sword chi strike the life-sucking beast. With a boom, the lotus sword chi exploded, turning into lotus petals one after another. They turned into sharp blades of light that cut into the life-sucking beast's body. Immediately, the life-sucking beast began to tremble violently. The lotus sword chi constantly surged through its body, destroying its vitality. The excruciating pain caused the life-sucking beast to shriek out in agony. However, it did not die. Its tremendous life force clashed with the sword chi of the lotus flower, causing the sword chi that the god king of the Emperor Lotus Sword Sect had sent into it to rapidly weaken. In the surroundings, the overgods and the divine king from various organizations used this opportunity to strike out once again. This time, 200 attacks shot through the air at the same time, landing on the life-sucking beast mercilessly. Boom! This time, the life-sucking beast could no longer evade. With a deafening explosion, it was smashed into pieces, and its body shattered into pieces. There was no blood in the life-sucking beast's body. Instead, it possessed a tremendous presence of life. It was as if life was like blood to a species like it. With the life-sucking beast's death, the chaotic crowd immediately fell silent. Everyone gathered around the life-sucking beast's corpse and pointed at it. Some people's faces were pale with lingering fear, while others looked relaxed with disdain. So this is the life-sucking beast. It's nothing special. We smashed it to pieces with a single strike. The legends speak of how terrifying the life-sucking beast is. Now that I've seen it for myself, it's clearly exaggerated. The life-sucking beast is nothing special. Don't underestimate the life-sucking beast. Didn't you see how our vitality leaked out uncontrollably as soon as it approached us? That's because you're too weak. That's why the life-sucking beast is so powerful. Many people were discussing spiritedly, arguing endlessly. The leaders of several dozen organizations all arrived as well. They pushed aside the crowd and collected the life-sucking beast's flesh. They studied it in their hands, as many of them were stern. The life-sucking beast is only an overgod, yet it's still alive after enduring my Lotus Explosion sword chi. If it weren't for the fact that there were just too many people involved this time, it would have taken me quite a bit of effort to kill it, the leader of the Divine King sect said with a deep voice. The leader of the Emperor Lotus Sword sect said in a deep voice. He did not become complacent because he had killed a life-sucking beast. Instead, he had a solemn expression. Brother Chongqing's Lotus Explosion sword chi is shockingly powerful. Even early Divine King Realm cultivators would struggle to resist it without the support of powerful cultivation methods and battle skills. However, the life-sucking beast that's only an overgod actually lasted so long under the Lotus Explosion sword chi, and it even had the ability to resist it. I have to say that these life-sucking beasts really are very powerful. They really are as difficult to deal with as the rumors say, the leader of another organization said with a deep voice. The most terrifying part is the life-devouring beast's ability to devour life force. If the difference in strength is too great, even getting close to them will result in their life force being sucked away. Fortunately, it's only an overgod this time. If a late God King had appeared, we would probably have had no choice but to flee. In front of a late Divine King life-sucking beast, let alone fighting, we just need to get close to it and the life force in our bodies will be released. It's said that there are quite a few Divine King realm life-sucking beasts in the two-world mountain range. Most terrifyingly, there are primordial realm life-sucking beasts in the mountain range as well. Everyone's expression changed when they heard about primordial realm life-sucking beasts. If they were outside with so many people and so many Divine King realm cultivators, they could even put up a fight against infinite primes if they worked together. However, before the terrifying ability of the life-sucking beast to devour life force, even their powerful killing formation was not confident they could stop a primordial realm life-sucking beast. Chapter 2755. The flesh of the life-devouring beast was split into several dozen portions, and the leaders of the several dozen organizations each received a piece. The life-devouring beast was an extremely rare species. It was rare because it only existed in the world of the fallen beast. At the same time, every drop of blood and piece of flesh from the life-devouring beast possessed extremely powerful vitality. Cultivators could not directly absorb this vitality, but it was an excellent material for refining various god-tier pills. As a result, the flesh of the life-devouring beast might not have had much value in the world of the fallen beast, but its value would increase by several dozen times or even several hundred times once it was brought to the saint's world. This was because the world of the fallen beast was limited by cultivation. Masters who could refine pills using the flesh of the life-devouring beast were as rare as phoenix feathers. As a result, the value of the flesh could not be exploited in the world of the fallen beast. However, it was different in the saint's world. In the saint's world, the flesh of the life-devouring beast was something that many cultivators or powerful organizations fought over. As a result, the leaders of the various organizations became rather complacent after obtaining the flesh. Although the two-world mountain range is dangerous, it's still an opportunity for us to make a fortune, If we can gather enough flesh of the life-devouring beast and bring it back to the clan, it'll be a great contribution. The Great Elder will definitely reward us personally. It'll be a foundation for us to compete for the position of patriarch in the future. We'll gain even more leverage. Some of the Sky Prides were secretly delighted. Even the Sky Prides, who were extremely fearful of the life-sucking beast, looked at the piece of flesh in their hands and felt less fearful. Afterwards, everyone began to organize their groups and prepare to set off again. No one paid any attention to the god who had died in the mouth of the life-devouring beast. Only Jianchen was an exception. He arrived before the god who had been reduced to skin and bones. The light in his eyes flickered. The vitality of a god has been completely sucked dry in just a few seconds. This life-devouring beast sure has a powerful devouring ability. Jianchen was secretly surprised. He could tell with a single glance that the life-devouring beast had not only drained the life-devouring beast, but even the soul-devouring beast had dispersed. Let alone godhood cultivators, even weaker origin realm cultivator souls would remain after the destruction of their bodies. They possessed the ability to reconstruct their bodies. After this heavenly god realm cultivator's vitality was devoured by the life-sucking beast, not even his Yuan spirit was left behind. Could it be that the life-devouring beast not only devours life force, but also Yuan Shin? Jianchen thought to himself. At this time, the large group had already set off again. This fallen celestial deity, realm martial artist's corpse, lay in the wilderness, and no one was there to collect his corpse. Jianchen waved his sleeve, and a wave of sharp sword energy immediately shot out, blasting a deep crater into the ground. Next, he waved his sleeve again, and a gust of wind swept the heavenly god's corpse into the crater, burying it on the spot. After doing all this, he turned around and left. He caught up with the large group and returned to Jianchen's side. Yang Yutian, this is the Two-World Mountain. The true dangers of the Two-World Mountain have yet to be revealed. I hope you don't fall behind. The senses of the soul are extremely restricted here. Once you lose track of the group, no one will be able to save you. Jianchen's cold voice rang out as soon as he returned to her side. She clearly knew what Jianchen had gone to do. She said emotionlessly, "If you want to leave the Two-World Mountain alive, you need to put away your benevolence, because a moment of benevolence might lead you to eternal damnation and your death. I obviously wouldn't joke around with my life. Don't worry, Miss Chen." Jianchen smiled, but as soon as he said that, something happened. A towering tree nearby seemed to have suddenly come alive. Thousands of branches fell down, stabbing the group of people with lightning speed like swords. Immediately, miserable cries rang out as several hundred cultivators were pierced. Their life force was sucked away by the branches at a terrifying rate, channeled into the main body of the tree. In a single instance, all the life force of the several hundred cultivators had been sucked away. Even their souls were not spared, completely dying out. After absorbing all the life force of the several hundred cultivators, the energy within the tree suddenly skyrocketed. Its strength had forcefully increased to a whole new level, going from peak overgod to divine king. It's the life-devouring beast. Oh no, it's actually broken through. Kill it! A bellow rang out. The leader of the Emperor Lotus Sword Sect was the bravest. His presence surged as he charged over first with his sword. He dared not hold back at all against the divine king's life-devouring beast. He struck out with his full strength. At the same time, many cultivators struck out from all directions. Various attacks rained down on the tree-shaped, life-devouring beast. Faced with so many attacks, the tree-shaped, life-devouring beast took defensive measures. It used the tremendous amount of life force within it to form a powerful barrier around itself. At the same time, a powerful suction appeared from its body. Immediately, all the gods and overgods within a radius of 3,000 meters were unable to hold back their life force. They began to rapidly gather towards the tree-shaped, life-devouring beast. What a powerful devouring ability! Even my life force has been drawn away. I almost lost control. Yang Yutian, all the divine guards, move out and kill this life-devouring beast as soon as possible. He Qianqian cried out. He Qianqian shouted. The law of ice descended, causing the temperature of heaven and earth to plummet. Snowflakes fell from the sky. She formed a seal with both of her hands, causing icicles to condense out of thin air, emitting a terrifying chill that seemed capable of freezing the void. The icicles shot towards the tree-shaped, life-sucking beast. These life-devouring beasts don't seem to have much intelligence. Everything they do is based on their instincts. Otherwise, they should understand that even if they can kill a few cultivators, it'll be difficult for them to survive against so many cultivators, thought Jianchen. However, he did not just stand by and watch. With a flip of his hand, a supreme quality saint artifact appeared. He unleashed strands of sword chi with a swing of his sword. However, the strength he displayed was only at the level of an ordinary early divine king. Boom! 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 With a series of violent booms, the barrier formed by the tree-shaped, life-devouring beast's life force began to tremble. It began to dim. However, the life-devouring beast actually managed to survive the attacks of so many people, including many divine king realm experts. It was not killed in a single blow. At this moment, a resplendent spear light streaked across the sky, piercing through the dim barrier with a powerful, penetrating force. The barrier formed by the life-devouring beast's life force was already on the verge of shattering. Now that it was struck by the spear, it could not bear the heavy burden and shattered. However, the spear's momentum did not diminish as it pierced the life-devouring beast's body with the energy of a divine king realm expert. The person wielding the spear was a heaven's pride of the Sun family. He looked to be in his 40s, a middle-aged man. However, at this moment he was incomparably brave. He held the spear in one hand and stomped on the ground with both feet. His body shook violently as he shouted, "Mountain-splitting spear art! Split!" As soon as the word left his mouth, cracks spread rapidly from the point of the spear. Pieces of wood exploded one after another. However, as soon as these cracks appeared, they were immediately healed by the life-devouring beast's powerful life force. These small wounds did not pose a threat to them at all. More and more god kings arrived in front of the life-sucking beast, besieging the newly advanced god king, realm life-sucking beast. The life-devouring beast's recovery ability was very powerful, making it almost impossible to kill. However, no matter how powerful its recovery ability was, it could not withstand so many people. 3 seconds later, even the tree-like life-devouring beast was not spared. It was smashed to pieces by the many divine kings. Its body was reduced to thousands of pieces of wood of various sizes. Only with the death of the life-devouring beast did the overgods and gods let out a sigh of relief. Before the divine king realm life-devouring beast, they did not even have the right to attack. They could not even approach it, which made them feel as sullen as they could. We've actually lost 800 people this time. We can't let this continue, or we'll probably lose more than half of the people we brought in before long, a divine king said with an ugly expression as he looked at the cultivators who had died to the life-devouring beast. In the two-world mountains. That's because gods can't do much at all, and overgods can barely provide any help either. I suggest we store them in the divine halls we carry with us. Otherwise, if we come across the life-devouring beast here, these weak cultivators will only become pills for the life-devouring beast to increase its strength. I agree. We can't let all these people die in Two-World Mountain. Once we return to the 100 Saints City in the future, there will be even more things for them to do. That's right. The place where we can truly use them is in the 100 Saints City, not Two-World Mountain. Let's store them in the divine halls, just in case they get in trouble outside. Everyone reached a consensus very soon. Afterwards, the leaders of the various organizations all took out the divine halls they carried with them and stored all the gods and over-gods in them. As a result, the number of people in the group suddenly decreased. They immediately went from several 100,000 to several tens of thousands. They had shrunk by 10 times in a single stroke. All of them were divine king realm cultivators. Of course, over 90% of them were divine king warriors who had been nurtured by the 100 calamity divine king pill. Less than 1% of them had actually reached divine king realm through their own cultivation. There were even a few leaders who were not divine king themselves, so they hid in the divine halls together with themselves. Afterwards, they gave the divine halls to Jin Hong for safekeeping. With that, Jin Hong possessed over 20 divine halls. At the same time, he obtained the authority to command the divine king warriors of the 20 organizations. Chapter 2756. God damn it, I never thought that those insignificant people who are only gods and over-gods would be treated like this. Jin Hong is a supreme prodigy who has obtained the Grand Exalt's legacy. He's the undisputed, strongest expert among us. Not only have those people avoided the risk of fighting the life-devouring beasts in the outside world by handing their divine halls to Jin Hong, but they've also saved themselves from the tiring journey. The prodigy of the Chu family, Chu Jia, felt both envious and jealous as he looked at the divine halls in Jin Hong's hands. Under Jin Hong's protection, their chances of survival are much greater than outside. God damn it, if I had known something like this would happen, I would have delayed my breakthrough to the divine king realm. That way, I would have been able to hide comfortably in a divine hall and rest. I wouldn't have had to risk my life outside, thought Chu Jia. Chu Jia thought inside. He looked at the divine hall in his hand that contained several thousand gods and over-gods as he sighed inside. The tree-shaped life-devouring beast had taught them that the life-devouring beast was not just a beast. It could also take the form of various plants. Once they concealed themselves, it would be very difficult to discover them even if they approached the life-devouring beast. As a result, they had to constantly be on guard against a sudden attack from the life-devouring beast. Not only did they have to be constantly on edge, but the constant vigilance would also cause them to feel exhausted. As time went on, all of them would feel exhausted. It was nowhere near as comfortable as staying in the divine hall. As a result, Chu Jia basically wished that he was the one who had entered the divine hall instead. At the same time, many of the divine king realm prodigies shared the same thoughts as Chu Jia. They were extremely fearful of the life-devouring beast and the cultivators who had died to it. Most of the prodigies were afraid of death. They were like flowers that had grown up in a greenhouse. They were not as courageous and fearless as the people from the Emperor Lotus Sword Sect. Young Master Jin Hong, I've only broken through to the Divine King realm recently. I haven't consolidated my cultivation completely, so I won't be of much help against the life-devouring beast. Why don't I enter the Divine Hall as well? I'll leave all the divine guards under my command to young Master Jin Hong. At this moment, a leader from a top force walked up to Jin Hong. He had a fawning expression on his face as he spoke humbly. There was a hint of desire in his eyes. The divine guards they were talking about were the men of sacrifice trained by the 100 calamity divine King Dan. Guang Wanhua, you're a dignified divine king realm expert. You're no different from us, yet you're so cowardly. The Crimson Light clan has really lost all face to have a disciple like you, said the divine king realm genius of the Sun clan. His tone was full of sarcasm. The Crimson Light clan's Guang Wanhua's face turned red, but he couldn't refute. This was because most of the remaining divine king were at the early stage of the divine king realm, the same realm as him. There were even a few who broke through later than him. Guang Wanhua, I'll pretend I didn't hear what you just said. I just hope you understand that you're not just representing yourself right now. You're also representing the Crimson Light clan behind you. The Crimson Light clan is one of the most famous clans in the Saints' world, especially Ancestor Crimson Light. He's an indomitable figure in the Saints' world. As his backer, you don't have to be as indomitable as him, but you can't tarnish the reputation of the Crimson Light clan, said Jinhong. His tone was very calm, without the slightest hint of aggressiveness. However, there was an unyielding courage in his words. He was unafraid of death and had the courage to face everything. Yes, young Master Jinhong is right. Guang Wanhua felt ashamed. He no longer dared to bring up the matter of hiding in the Divine Hall. Chu Jie originally wanted to hide in the Divine Hall as well, but after seeing Guang Wanhua's example, he immediately dismissed the idea. This Jinhong is quite a talent. Jianqin nodded inwardly. Jinhong wasn't that old either. He had cultivated for less than 1,000 years, yet he was able to maintain a calm and collected attitude after achieving so much in such a short period of time. It was indeed commendable. If he didn't die prematurely, his future accomplishments would definitely be astonishing. The group shrank and formed a circular formation as they continued to advance. They arranged all the divine guards around them, while the Divine King realm prodigies were in the center. This way, even if the life-sucking beasts attacked, the Divine King realm Deathsworn would be the first to come into contact with them. This would reduce the casualties of ordinary cultivators. After all, the Divine King realm Deathsworn could only live for 100 years at most. At the same time, quite a few of them had already lived for several decades, so they did not have much time left. As a result, they did not feel too pained about losing them. As they advanced, the gray mist in the forest became denser and denser. In the end, even with the eyesight of God Kings, they could only see a distance of 100 meters. Fortunately, they could still use the senses of their souls, so they were able to observe the situation within a radius of 10 kilometers with the senses of their souls. Jianqin looked at the dense mist that blotted out the sky and frowned slightly. This was because he could clearly sense that as the mist thickened, the mist gradually changed as well. It actually slowly seeped into his body through his skin, pores, and even through his breathing. Afterwards, it lodged itself in his body and began to devour his vitality. Even though it was extremely well hidden and could fool Jinhong, who had obtained the Grand Exalt's legacy, it could not fool Jianqin, who had reached the primordial realm and whose soul had mutated, becoming extraordinarily sensitive. Miss Jian, there's something strange about the mist. If you trust me, immediately use energy to protect yourself. Don't let the mist approach you, Jianqin said to He Qianqian secretly. Hearing that, He Qianqian turned around and glanced at Jianqin in surprise. However, she did not say anything. Instead, she closed her eyes and began to examine it carefully. Jianqin sighed inside when he saw that. He knew that he would probably have to explain his warning out of kindness, as it was impossible for the Divine King to discover the hidden dangers in the mist. Let alone the Divine King. Even some infinite primes would not be able to discover them. This was because this fog was like a parasite. Once it was sucked into a cultivator's body, it would quietly hide and fuse with the cultivator's body. Without special methods or extraordinary abilities, it was impossible to discover its existence. They resided in the cultivator's body and slowly grew stronger by devouring life. The cultivator would not be able to sense the life they had devoured at all. This was because both the life that had been devoured and the life that had not been devoured remained in the cultivator's body. As a result, no one would be able to discover anything strange. The only difference was that the life that had been devoured no longer belonged to the host. I just don't know if the gray fog residing in a cultivator's body will undergo a new change when it absorbs life force to a certain extent. Jianqin suddenly thought of something. He could not help but think of the life-devouring beast in the two-world mountain range. He began to speculate. At this moment, He Qianqian opened her eyes as well. She stared at Jianqin suspiciously and said, Yang Yutian, I didn't discover anything strange. What do you mean by strange? The mist is nowhere near as simple as it seems on the surface. It will invade the body and hide there. If you don't guard against it, it will definitely leave behind a huge hidden danger in the future. The consequences will be unimaginable. As a result, just in case, don't let the mist approach you. Don't ask me how I know. My senses are far greater than ordinary people's. I can discover many things that you can't, said Jianchen. Qianqian stared at Jianchen with shining eyes, as if she wanted to see through Jianchen's eyes and see whether Jianchen was telling the truth. This was because she did not believe Jianchen at all. She came from the Tianhe clan and had been personally nurtured by a primordial realm expert since young. She had been imbued with a lot of knowledge. She believed herself to be far more knowledgeable than ordinary people. In her opinion, even if there really was something wrong here, it should have been her who discovered it first. It was impossible for a mere independent cultivator like Jianchen to discover it first. Moreover, she could not detect anything at all. As for Jianchen's explanation that his senses were far greater than ordinary people's, Qianqian snorted disdainfully. Could it be that they, geniuses of peak organizations who cultivated various ancient secret techniques, could not compare to a single independent cultivator? Jianchen could not help but feel powerless when he saw Qianqian's doubtful gaze. He said, Miss Qian, don't worry. I won't harm you. You won't be wrong if you listen to me. Jianchen was unable to find a reason to convince Qianqian, as he could not expose his strength. Otherwise, once the Dark Star race learned that a primordial realm expert had come from the outside world, they would definitely be on guard and make corresponding arrangements. By then, saving Siyu would become extremely difficult. Qianqian thought about it seriously before saying, This place isn't like the Saint's world, where we can absorb origin energy from the surroundings at any time to replenish ourselves. If we really listen to you and use energy to protect ourselves, we'll be depleting our origin energy extremely quickly. I'll go find young Master Jin Hong. He's a Grand Exalt successor. I'll see if he can discover any problems. If the mist really is as dangerous as you say, Yang Yutian, you've done us a great service this time. But if it weren't for... Qianqian paused when she reached there. Her cold gaze immediately sharpened, and she said sternly, I hope you understand that once I discover that you're toying with us in a situation like this, the consequences will be thousands of times more severe than usual. With that, Qianqian turned around and made her way towards Jin Hong's side. Sigh, my good intentions are being treated as ill intent. Jianchen felt helpless. He directly ignored Qianqian's threat. If he wanted to, he could leave the group at any time. The two world mountains were a sea of blades and a hell of boiling oil in the eyes of others, but in his eyes it was like his backyard. However, the two world mountains are just too large. The senses of my soul are suppressed, so I'm unable to see the entire place. Moreover, this world is formed from a huge beast, and the depths of the two world mountains seem to be the heart of the beast. It wriggles from time to time. Every time it wriggles, the landscape will change and the direction will deviate. It's no different from a maze. If I want to leave, I'll need these people to lead the way. Only by using their secret technique to sense the 100 Saint City will I be able to leave more easily, Jianchen thought. Chapter 27:57. Jin Hong's actions attracted the attention of all the prodigies present. At that moment, all of their gazes gathered on Jianchen. In particular, when they heard what Jin Hong had said, a gleam of light flashed through their eyes, and they immediately began to investigate secretly. However, after this round of inspection, none of them noticed the slightest abnormality. That's right, the mist is indeed unusual. It's still very difficult to say whether it will cause any adverse effects to us or not. But just in case, we should take the necessary precautions, said Jianchen. You're spouting nonsense. I've already investigated the mist here. I didn't find anything wrong with it. You keep saying that the mist here is unusual. So why don't you tell me what's unusual about it? As soon as Jianchen finished speaking, the prodigy of the Chu family, Chu Jie, questioned him. The mist is so strange that even some primordial realm experts probably can't discover it. I only discovered it because of my superior senses. It's only normal that you can't discover it, Jianqin said calmly. Jianqin crossed his arms and said leisurely, Anyway, I've already warned you. As for whether you believe me or not, that's up to you. How dare you? Yang Yutian, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to us like that? Chu Jie's face sank, and his gaze became piercing at that moment. This time he was forced to barge into the two-world mountain, so he was already very angry. Now that he saw a mere rogue cultivator not only not groveling in front of them, but also not showing the slightest bit of respect and reverence, he even had a fearless appearance, as if he didn't take them seriously at all. Chu Jie couldn't take it anymore and flew into a rage. Which one of us isn't a supreme prodigy from a peak clan? Our statuses are great, so how can we allow an independent cultivator like you to act so recklessly? Kneel down immediately and kowtow to us, or I won't spare you, Chu Jie said sternly. This independent cultivator really is a little ignorant. No, he's a little arrogant. Perhaps it's because he managed to become a divine king in 1,000 years, so he's a little arrogant. He doesn't know that someone like that is nothing in our eyes. With our statuses, we only need to say a single word to kill him. As soon as Chu Jie finished speaking, another prodigy spoke up. He stared at Jianqin from the corner of his eyes. His tone was filled with unconcealable arrogance and deep disdain. This independent cultivator really doesn't know the rules. In the eyes of these prodigies, Jianqin's disrespect and reverence instead became arrogance. It immediately displeased some of them, and a few of them sneered. Hearing these people's words, Qianqian's face sank. Her cold eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. In her opinion, no matter what, Yang Yutian was still a member of her Tianhe clan. Even if he did something wrong or said something wrong, it should be handled by her Tianhe clan. How could it be the turn of these outsiders to criticize them? Just as Qianqian was about to speak, Jianqin's voice rang out. You want me to kneel down? You don't have the qualifications to do so. Not to mention you. Even if your old ancestor came here personally, he wouldn't be able to make me kneel down. Oh no. Hearing this, Qianqian knew that things weren't going well. If it was just a quarrel with the people here, it would be easier to deal with it. After all, everyone was in the same position, so there was basically no need to be afraid of anyone. However, Jianqin actually brought out their old ancestor. This matter was much more serious. You dare slander our old ancestor? Yang Yutian, you're courting death. Chu Jie was enraged. With a flip of his hand, a top-grade saint artifact sword appeared in his hand. A layer of golden sunfire burned on the sword, and it turned into a golden rainbow that shot towards Jianqin. Sunfire Sword Qi. That's the Sunfire Sword Qi of the Chu clan. I didn't think that Chu Jie would use such a powerful battle skill right from the start. It seems like he wants to defeat his opponent in one move. This Sunfire Sword Qi was created by a great elder of the Chu clan after comprehending a high-level battle skill. Its power is extremely shocking. When facing an opponent of the same level, unless the opponent also grasps a powerful secret technique, they'll be heavily injured even if they don't die. Although this Chu Jie looks like he's afraid of death, he's not weak at all. There's no need to watch anymore. The outcome has already been decided. Chu Jie's Sunfire Sword Qi is enough to make that Yang Yutian lose a layer of skin, even if he doesn't die. That's not necessarily true. This Yang Yutian was able to cultivate to the Divine King realm as a loose cultivator. Perhaps he obtained the inheritance of some powerful existence. The spectating prodigies all looked like they were waiting to watch a good show. Very few of them were optimistic about Jianqin's chances. However, Jianqin remained calm and composed. He directly sent out a slap. A crisp sound rang out. Chu Jian's imposing aura suddenly dissipated after using the Sunfire Sword Qi. His body flew to the side like a kite with its string cut. He flew for over 100 meters before landing miserably on the ground. Half of his face was already a bloody mess. This sudden change was clearly beyond everyone's expectations. Everyone was either dumbfounded or staring blankly at Chu Jie, who was over 100 meters away. Their faces were filled with shock. What just happened? Did any of you see clearly? This is impossible. Chu Jie was actually sent flying by Yang Yutian with a single slap. What? Sent flying by a single slap? This is... Immediately, everyone who witnessed this scene was dumbstruck. Even He Qianqian was shocked to the point of speechlessness. Jin Hong's eyes flashed. He fixed his gaze on Jianqin. For the first time, he revealed a solemn expression. This slap seemed to have stupefied Chu Jie. He crawled up from the ground with a somewhat dazed expression. He subconsciously touched the half of his face that was completely covered in linen. Only when he saw the bloodstains on his palm did he seem to have been jolted awake. His eyes instantly turned red as he let out a hoarse roar. Yang Yutian, I will kill you. I will dismember your body into 10,000 pieces. All divine guards of the Chu family, listen to my command. Everyone attack. Tear Yang Yutian into pieces. Following Chu Jie's command, no less than 700 divine king realm death warriors of the Chu family immediately took action. A powerful aura belonging to the divine king realm erupted from every single one of them. They were about to launch a killing blow at Jianqin. Stop! Yang Yutian is a member of our Tianhe family. Chu Jie, are you trying to make an enemy out of our Tianhe family? He Qianqian promptly stepped forward. Following her action, the several hundred divine guards of the Tianhe family also took a step forward and blocked the path of the Chu family divine guards. Chu Jie, He Qianqian, can ignore the private duel between you and Yang Yutian. But if you want to use the power of my divine guards, I will not stand by and do nothing, said He Qianqian coldly. The humiliation I have suffered can only be washed away with his blood. Today I must kill him. He Qianqian, are you really going to stop me? Said Chu Jie while gnashing his teeth. His eyes were filled with hatred. Chapter 2758. Jianqin's voice was filled with killing intent. Bickering with a measly divine king with his current identity and status was just like an adult bullying a child. It did not suit his status very much. However, even a person would get angry. Chu Jie's actions had clearly crossed Jianqin's bottom line. Jianqin would not have bothered if it were some trivial matter, but once it involved his dignity, it was no small matter. The dignity of a primordial realm expert could not be sullied at all. Chu Jie was held in the air by Jianqin by the neck. He struggled desperately with his legs while his hands subconsciously tried to pry open Jianqin's hands. However, with his strength as an early divine king, he was clearly so powerless before Jianqin. Moreover, when Jianqin grabbed him by the neck, a powerful force restrained him. Under the restraint, his limbs were unaffected, but the power that belonged to the divine king within him was no longer under his control. In an instant, the entire place fell silent. Jianqin's attack was far too sudden, and his speed was so fast that many of the geniuses present were unable to react in time. At this moment, all the geniuses stared blankly at Chu Jie, who was being lifted into the air with his legs flailing about. Their minds were completely blank. In their eyes, Chu Jie was not particularly powerful, but he was still a god king after all. However, he was actually unable to withstand a single blow from an independent cultivator who was also a god king. He was so weak that it completely overturned their understanding of the world. He Qianqian was stunned as well. She knew that even if she used her full strength, she would never be able to capture Chu Jie so easily. As a matter of fact, she would need to expend quite a bit of effort to defeat him. But at that moment, Yang Yutian, who had always kept a low profile beside her, had actually captured Chu Jie right away. Furthermore, looking at his relaxed appearance, it was evident that he had done so effortlessly. How did this Yang Yutian become so powerful all of a sudden? He's definitely not an ordinary divine king. He Qianqian was extremely shocked. This Yang Yutian is actually so powerful, and from the looks of it, He doesn't seem to be using his full strength. Good, in this extremely dangerous two-world mountain. Powerful people like him are exactly what we need. The more powerful people there are, the higher the chances of us making it out of two-world mountain. A strange light appeared in Jin Hong's eyes. He stared at Jianchen with a sliver of excitement in his eyes. Stop! Yang Yutian, what are you doing? Release Chu Jia. At this moment, a Heaven's Pride expert who had a good relationship with Chu Jia snapped out of his daze. He immediately led several dozen divine guards and surrounded Jianchen. Perhaps he was intimidated by Jianchen's sudden display of strength, but when this Heaven's Pride expert led his men to surround Jianchen, he did not dare to get too close to Jianchen. Instead, he had his divine guards stand in front of him while he stood behind his divine guards. However, as though he still felt that it was not enough, he immediately shouted to the crowd in a low voice, Gong Ruai's Zhao Wenbin, Kongfeiing, your brother is being bullied. Why don't you stand up for him? As soon as he finished speaking, 3 more Heaven's Pride experts stood out from the crowd. Each of them led a group of divine guards and surrounded Jianchen. Yang Yutian, release Chu Jia at once and apologize to him. Otherwise, don't blame us for bullying you with numbers. A mere independent cultivator is actually so arrogant. In my opinion, not only does he need to apologize, but he needs to sever an arm as well. Otherwise, he'll die here today. Chu Jia is our sworn brother. Insulting Chu Jia is insulting us. Anyone who insults us will die. The 3 Heaven's Pride were extremely arrogant. Even though Jianchen's strength had exceeded all of their expectations, they were still prodigies from peak clans in the Saints' world after all. They had been bullied by primordial realm experts since young, so their horizons were extraordinary. They were used to seeing various experts, so Jianchen's display of strength naturally did not scare them. Of course, their greatest confidence came from the warriors of sacrifice they had brought in from the outside world who had been nurtured by the divine king of Calamity's pill. Although we don't have the protection of the experts of our clans in the world of the fallen beast, once the warriors of sacrifice work together through formations, let alone the divine king of Calamity, we can even fend off some weaker infinite primes. The prodigies were all filled with confidence. Against the life-devouring beast, they were suppressed by its ability to devour life force, so it was very difficult for them to unleash their advantage as divine king warriors of sacrifice. However, they no longer had to worry about that when they faced cultivators. He Qianshan's expression changed with the addition of these people. If it was just the Chu family, she could still fend them off. But now that 4 other organizations had appeared, it was rather difficult for her to fend them off alone. Under the encirclement of over 100 divine guards, Jianchen's expression did not change. He said coldly, how stubborn. Since you're asking to be humiliated, I'll oblige you. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw Chu Jia out like he was throwing a dead dog. Chu Jia's body broke 3 large trees before he fell to the ground. All the bones in his body were about to fall apart, and he couldn't get up for a long time. Jianchen vanished in a single moment, appearing before the 4 prodigies who had stepped forward later. He raised his hand and sent out 4 slaps. Smack! 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 With 4 clear slaps, the 4 prodigies who had stepped forward ended up in the same state as Chu Jia. They were sent flying by a single slap from Jianchen without any mercy. Half of their faces had been reduced to a bloody mess. The divine guards they had brought with them were basically non-existent. Yang Yutian, why Tui? How dare you hit us? A prodigy crawled up from the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood and shattered teeth. He pointed at Jianchen with a trembling finger. His eyes were as bloodshot as a wild beast's. That's impossible. We're both divine king realm cultivators. How could we be hit by him in a single exchange? We didn't even have time to react. The other 3 prodigies had calmed down a lot. They carefully recalled what had happened. While feeling humiliated, they were also drenched in cold sweat. Oh no! Protect the young master! Everyone attack! Kill that man! At the same time, The divine king realm death-sworn shouted one after another. All the death-sworn took action, charging a Gentian with supreme quality saint weapons in hand. "You're courting death." Gentian coldly snorted. He formed a sword with his finger, and a silver-white beam of light shot out from his finger. It was a sword condensed from pure sword chi. With a swing of his sword, a powerful crescent-shaped sword chi immediately shot out in a fan shape. When the sword chi shot out, the surrounding space distorted and emitted spatial ripples. Under the spatial ripples, the sword chi's speed abruptly increased. It pierced through the bodies of the 8 Divine King Realm Deathsworn with unbelievable speed. The 8 Divine King Realm Deathsworn felt intense pain from their waist. In the next moment, their bodies were severed from the waist down. However, they did not die. To them, as long as their souls were not destroyed, the wounds on their bodies could be healed. However, Gentian clearly did not intend to kill them. He only injured their bodies and did not target their souls. Chapter 27:59. He Qianshan of the Tianhe clan became particularly solemn when she saw how serious the situation had become. However, she knew that she couldn't allow Gentian to continue acting so recklessly. Otherwise, the situation would become unmanageable. Moreover, they were still in the Two-World Mountain, where danger lurked everywhere. It was unknown whether they could leave this place alive. At this moment, everyone needed to be united. They couldn't afford any internal strife. Yang Yutian was brought in by our Tianhe clan. As long as he hasn't left the Two-World Mountain, then Yang Yutian is a member of our Tianhe clan. This matter must be stopped. Otherwise, if things get out of hand, we won't be able to answer to the Supreme Elder. He Qianshan steeled her heart. Just as she was about to take the risk of offending the heavens' prides from the other clans, Jin Hong's voice sounded in her ears. "Don't be impatient. Let's wait and see." "Young Master Jin Hong, if we continue to ignore this matter, the consequences will become more and more serious." He Qianshan transmitted her voice. "It's fine. Suppressing the 5 clans is a piece of cake. I want to see Yang Yutian's strength." Jin Hong calmly transmitted his voice. His gaze was focused on Gentian as he continued to transmit his voice to He Qianshan. This Yang Yutian has hidden his strength very deeply. Previously, he didn't reveal his true strength. Even when dealing with the life-sucking beast, his performance was so ordinary that I had overlooked him. Only now did I realize that his true strength is so powerful. Moreover, I feel that this is not his full strength. Hearing this, a look of surprise flashed across He Qianshan's eyes. She didn't expect that the divine king she had recruited would be so capable. If what Jin Hong said was true, then wouldn't it mean that Yang Yutian was much stronger than her? With Jin Hong's words, He Qianshan's heart felt a little more at ease. Jin Hong stared fixedly at Gentian, a strange light occasionally appearing in his eyes. He thought to himself, "When I got close to Yang Yutian just now, my bloodline power couldn't help but become restless. Just what does Yang Yutian have that can affect my bloodline origin?" On the other side, the battle between Gentian and the Divine King's men of sacrifice had officially begun. These Divine King's men of sacrifice had all undergone special training and were specially trained for battle. At this crucial moment, the effects of their previous training were fully displayed. With a single order, 64 Divine King's men of sacrifice immediately lined up in a special formation, quickly forming a large formation. This large formation could gather the strength of 64 of them. Its power was so strong that it could even pose a fatal threat to a peak Divine King expert. It could even directly kill a peak Divine King. This kind of formation wouldn't be very effective against life-sucking beasts, because the life-sucking beasts that could force them to use this formation were all powerful existences. Their vitality would be sucked away before they could even get close. However, when used against cultivators, the formation's power would be fully displayed. Any large formation required a certain amount of time to form. Even though these Divine King's men of sacrifice had undergone countless training, They still needed 1 or 2 breaths of time to complete. How could Jianchen just watch them form the formation? This was because once the formation was formed, although it still wouldn't pose any threat to Jianchen, it would force him to reveal even more of his strength. He naturally wouldn't allow himself to be put in such a situation. Jianchen flicked his finger, shooting out rays of resplendent sword qi from his fingertips. Every single ray of sword qi was affected by the laws of space, making them extremely fast. It was like teleportation, surpassing the reaction speed of these divine kings, men of sacrifice. They arrived before them in an instant. Puff, 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 puff. The sword qi pierced through the foreheads of several divine kings, men of sacrifice. These divine kings, men of sacrifice, who were about to form the formation, were instantly annihilated. They were mercilessly killed by Jianchen. With the death of several divine kings, men of sacrifice, the powerful formation formed by 64 people shattered before it could form. This Yang Yutian can actually use the laws of sword and the laws of space to such an unimaginable level. His strength is already above most of the geniuses here. The laws of sword are one of the most powerful laws in terms of offense among the 3,000 laws, while the laws of space allow him to ignore distance. With the two of them working together, how many of us can be his match, even if we're all in the Divine King's realm? The surrounding geniuses all paled. None of them could remain calm. The way they looked at Jianchen had changed, because the strength that Jianchen had displayed had already surpassed most of them. Not only had a nameless, independent cultivator reached the Divine King's realm in 1,000 years, but he was even more powerful than them. These geniuses, who had been carefully nurtured by peak clans since young, felt very uncomfortable. This Yang Yutian must have obtained an impressive legacy. A mere infinite prime's legacy is nowhere near enough for him to reach such a level. He Qianshan was very unsettled as well. Quick! Form the 8 slaughter formation. The Divine King's men of sacrifice immediately changed their formation when they saw how the 64-person formation could not be completed. They split into groups of 8 and formed the 8 slaughter formation. This time, due to the reduced number of people, they took much less time to form the formation. They basically completed it in an instant. In that instance, 7 8 slaughter formations were formed, radiating with powerful pulses of energy. In the next moment, 7 powerful streaks of light shot out from the 8 slaughter formation. They shot towards Jianchen with great power that caused the expressions of all the geniuses present to change. The power of the 8 slaughter formation is enough to threaten mid-divine kings. As a matter of fact, even mid-divine kings who aren't at the level of supreme prodigies would die before the 8 slaughter formation, let alone the fact that there are 7 of them right now. Yang Yutian is probably done for. I don't know if this Yang Yutian can withstand the power of the 8 lore formation. If he can, then his strength will be too terrifying. Yang Yutian's strength hasn't been exposed particularly clearly. He seems like an early divine king, but he also seems like a mid-divine king. However, it's impossible for him to be a late divine king. But no matter what his strength is, he'll lose a layer of skin even if he doesn't die. That's not necessarily true. Perhaps Yang Yutian still has some trump cards he hasn't used yet. I refuse to believe that he hasn't grasped a powerful battle skill or two. The surrounding geniuses all chose to just watch on as if they were happy to see this happen. Clearly, this matter did not concern them at all. They did not want to help anyone. Facing the 7 8 slaughter formations, Jianchen's face finally became stern. Of course, this so-called seriousness was just a facade. He purposely showed it to the prodigies so that he wouldn't appear too heaven-defying. Afterwards, he formed a seal with his hand, and powerful sword qi radiated from him. He called out, "Daluo sword!" Immediately, the tremendous might of the world descended. Endless golden light rose up, condensing into 7 dazzling strands of sword qi above Jianchen's head. This was the Daluo sword technique that Jianqin had given up on a very long time ago, the one that he had not used for many years. As the Daluo sword technique was of too low a grade, it was completely useless to Jianqin now that he had reached the primordial realm. As a result, Jianqin had given up on it a very long time ago. However, he just happened to be able to disguise the Daluo sword technique as a high-grade battle skill at a time like this, so that his battle prowess would suddenly skyrocket. The 7 streaks of golden sword chi were like 7 golden rivers hanging in the sky. With a dazzling light, they collided with the energy pillar of the 8 cuts formation. With a deafening boom, the 7 powerful energy pillars of the 8 cuts formation were split in half by the golden sword chi. The golden sword chi seemed to be indestructible and unstoppable. After shattering the 7 energy pillars, it mercilessly struck the 8 cuts formation. The 50 or so divine king warriors in the 8 slaughter formations all vomited blood as they were blown away like fallen leaves. They were heavily injured. On the other hand, Jianqin stood there unscathed. He was only slightly pale. Chapter 2760. The whole place fell into a dead silence. Jianqin had displayed his invincible power and defeated the 7-8 killing formations formed by dozens of divine kings, men of sacrifice. Not only did he intimidate dozens of geniuses from various top forces, but the rest of the divine king's men of sacrifice who were ready to attack Jianqin were also intimidated by Jianqin's strength. Suddenly, the remaining hundreds of divine king's men of sacrifice who were ready to attack hesitated. They looked at Jianqin with deep fear and dread. Although they were men of sacrifice, it didn't mean that they didn't have fear and other emotions. They were no different from ordinary people, except that they only had a lifespan of 100 years. You bunch of idiots. What are you still standing around for? Everyone attack together and kill him. Kill him for me. This young master wants him to die without a complete corpse. Tear him into 1,000 pieces for me. Chu Jia crawled up with difficulty under a large tree several hundred meters away. His face was ferocious as he pointed at the Chu family's death warriors and shouted with all his might. Men of the Songqiong family, listen up. Attack together and tear Yang Yuqian into pieces. Kong Feiying also roared. What a disgrace! What a disgrace! Yang Yuqian, how dare you treat me like this? Men of sacrifice of the Gong family, listen up. Kill Yang Yuqian. Gong Rui's voice was also hoarse. He was bristling with anger. Yang Yuqian, no one can save you today. If the Tianhe family wants to save you, then I, Zhao Wenbin, will destroy them first. It's always us bullying others. Who dares to bully us? A mere rogue cultivator dares to be so arrogant. Yang Yuqian, I, Zhou Ji, will never let you go today. From now on, the Jade sect, the Zhao family, the Gong family, the Songqiong family, and the Chu family will form an alliance. Whoever dares to stop us from killing Yang Yuqian will be the enemy of the 5 families. The geniuses of the 5 clans were seething with anger. Their murderous intent soared to the skies as they glared at Jianqin viciously. It was as if they could not wait to cut Jianqin into pieces. How could these 5 prodigies, who had grown up in peak clans, endure such humiliation in front of so many people? If Jin Hong had been the one to humiliate them, they would have felt a little better because Jin Hong's strength and background far surpassed theirs. He was not someone they could afford to offend. However, Jianqin was a mere rogue cultivator, so the situation was completely different. This was because these prodigies looked down on independent cultivators from the bottom of their hearts. Even independent cultivators with some strength were worthless in their eyes. With their identity and status, they only needed to say a single word to get primordial realm experts to take action and crush independent cultivators to death easily. I've already shown mercy. If you continue to be stubborn, don't blame me for killing you. Jianqin's eyes turned cold. With a wave of his hand, a sword appeared in his hand. It shone with sharp light. The sword was a supreme quality saint artifact. He had specially prepared it for his trip to the world of the fallen beast. Look, Yang Yutian has already taken out a saint artifact after fighting for so long. Yang Yutian has never used a saint artifact. He has always fought barehanded. Originally, I thought he didn't have a saint artifact that suited him, but I never thought he would be hiding it the entire time, only taking it out now. That sword has probably reached the peak of supreme quality saint artifacts. It's only second to god artifacts, or it can be called a half-god artifact. He's actually hiding a supreme quality saint artifact that's on par with half-god artifacts. When he fought earlier, Yang Yutian actually didn't use his full strength. Isn't this Yang Yutian a little too powerful? I really don't know how an independent cultivator like him can grow to such a shocking level. Even surpassing us prodigies from peak clans, the expressions of the several dozen spectating prodigies all changed. Many of them stared at Jianshan's sword, and the fear in their eyes became even heavier. He Qianqian was stunned. She was unable to return to her senses, even after quite some time. Jianshan had destroyed several dozen Divine Kings' formations with a single strike. The mental impact was just too great. This was because even she did not possess the ability to do something like that. The strength that Jianshan had displayed at this moment had completely surpassed hers. Everyone go. Send a group of people to hold off Yang Yutian. The rest of you, form a formation and kill him. On the other side, the 5 prodigies all gave out orders. They were extremely determined to kill Jianshan, and they did not take Jianshan's threat seriously at all. This time, all the Divine Kings death-sworn that belonged to the 5 organizations moved out. There were no longer several dozen of them like before, but several thousand of them. The several thousand Divine Kings, death-sworn, suppressed the fear and apprehension they felt for Jianshan and immediately split into 2 groups. One group was prepared to directly engage Jianshan in a direct confrontation and hold off Jianshan, while the other group began to form a formation in the rear. Every single formation was formed by several hundred Divine Kings. Its power had completely surpassed the limits of the godhood realm. Everyone stop. This matter ends here. Kill anyone who dares to interfere. At this moment, a bellow rang out. The voice was like thunder, deafening quite a few people. The ground trembled slightly, and it was also like the roar of a primordial wolf. It possessed a soul-shaking power, causing the souls of the several thousand Divine Kings, death-sworn, to sway violently. Their minds actually blanked out for a moment. Jin Hong stepped out of the crowd. He did not give off a shocking presence. He was just as low-key and ordinary as before. He slowly walked out like a mortal, pressing towards the several thousand Divine Kings death-sworn. Even though he did not give off any pressure, his appearance made the several thousand Divine Kings death-sworn feel like they were facing a towering mountain. All of them could not help but slowly back away. The faces of Chu Jie, Zhao Wenbin, Kong Feiying, Gong Rui, and Zhou Ji, who had been humiliated by Jianshan, all became ugly when they saw Jin Hong step forward. Resentment filled their hearts, causing their faces to become rather twisted. Young Master Jin Hong, are you trying to interfere with the matters of our 5 clans? Our 5 clans have already declared before that anyone who tries to save Yang Yutian will become our enemy, Zhou Ji said with a sunken face. Jin Hong remained calm. This is Two World Mountain, not the outside world. It's fine if it's just small squabbles, but if there's a large-scale conflict, I have to stop it. Otherwise, if it causes too much of a ruckus and draws out a large number of life-devouring beasts, the consequences will be unthinkable. Don't bring harm to all of us because of the personal grievances of your 5 clans. Jin Hong remained upright and plain-spoken. He spoke with the bigger picture in mind, not siding with anyone. As for becoming enemies with your 5 clans, Jin Hong's gaze slowly swept across Zhou, Ji, Chu Jie, and the rest. His ordinary gaze gradually turned cold and indifferent. You do not represent the families behind you. What right do the 5 of you have to become my Jin Hong's enemy? Jin Hong, Chu Jie and the others were exasperated. They stared at Jin Hong furiously, but they had nothing to say. Enough. All of you, disperse and settle down. Once we're out of Two World Mountain, I won't interfere with your personal grievances. But in Two World Mountain, you have to consider the bigger picture. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless, Jin Hong said with an unquestionable tone, directly dispersing the Divine King's death sworn. In the end, the storm ended with Jin Hong's appearance. In this team, Jin Hong clearly had a pivotal position, and no one could surpass him. Not many people dared to challenge Jin Hong in front of him. Chapter 27:61. Although he was doubtful, Jin Hong did not show it at all. He remained like nothing was wrong, only caring about the hidden dangers of the mist that Jianqin had raised. However, what Jin Hong did not know was that when his bloodline became restless, the droplet of essence blood hidden in Jianqin's body actually warmed up at the same time. The essence blood trembled slightly, sending strands of warmth into Jianqin's heart. The droplet of essence blood has actually stirred once again. This is the second time. Through the essence blood, I can actually vaguely sense the power of Jin Hong's bloodline. It looks like Jin Hong's ability to stand out from all the prodigies of the Wolf Clan and obtain the recognition of the Skywolf's legacy was not a coincidence. Instead, it was because a sliver of the ancient Skywolf's bloodline flowed through his body. It's just that the power of the bloodline has become extremely thin, Jianqin thought. Not only could he sense Jin Hong's bloodline through the power of the ancient Skywolf's bloodline, but he could also sense the restlessness of Jin Hong's bloodline. This allowed him to understand that the Grand Exalt's essence blood that originated from the ancient Skywolf had attracted Jin Hong's attention. However, Jianqin also acted like nothing was wrong. He acted like he did not sense anything and answered Jin Hong indifferently. I can only sense a tiny bit of the strangeness of the mist with my extraordinary senses. I don't know anything more specific. Yang Yutian, it's not that we don't trust you, but you need to understand that this isn't the saint's world. We can't absorb the energy of the world to replenish ourselves in the world of the fallen beast. All the energy we consume needs to be replenished through divine crystals. Right now, we're in the Two World Mountain, and we'll be fighting the life-devouring beasts at any time. The consumption of energy is extremely great, so all of us need to control every bit of energy we use. If we use energy to protect ourselves based on your uncertain instincts, it'll be quite a burden on us and slow down our journey, the prodigy of the Emperor Lotus Sword Sect said. He spoke to Jianqin like an equal. Clearly, none of the prodigies dared to underestimate Jianqin after the battle earlier. He had won everyone's respect. Young Master Jin Hong, may I ask if you've discovered anything? He Qian asked Jin Hong. Jin Hong remained silent. He looked away from Jianqin and stared at the gray mist that blotted out the sky. After quite a while, he said slowly, I haven't discovered any obvious abnormalities. It's just that I've always felt uneasy. I don't know if this uneasiness comes from the life-devouring beasts or something else. But just in case, I suggest we use energy to protect ourselves and keep the mist away. As soon as he finished speaking, Jin Hong set an example. Immediately, a powerful energy filled the air, forming a powerful shield to protect the inside. With Jin Hong leading the way, the several dozen other prodigies all gritted their teeth and did the same. They began to use energy to protect themselves. Even the Divine King's warriors of death under them were no exception. In the end, almost 2/3 of the prodigies used energy to create a barrier, but there were still a few people who refused to believe it. They were unwilling to waste energy for no good reason. God damn it, we'll have to hold divine crystals at all times now. We'll have to replenish every bit of energy we consume. It won't be as easy as before anymore, someone grumbled inside. Yang Yutian, I hope the mist really is as strange as you say it is. If I find out that you're toying with us, I won't be able to do anything to you in the world of the fallen beast, but I'll definitely make you suffer once we return to the saints' world. There are still a few people who haven't used energy to protect themselves. That's fine too. I'll let them see if there's anything strange about the mist here." Everyone continued on their way. Jianqin also put on an act of casting down a thin layer of protective light as he followed beside He Qianqian. The fierce battle before consumed a lot of your energy. This is a pill that can help you recover your source energy. Take it quickly. In the Two-World Mountain, we have to be at our peak at all times. He Qianqian passed a pill to Jianqin. Her voice was no longer as cold as before. Clearly, her attitude towards Jianqin had changed drastically. "It's fine. The battle before didn't exhaust me too much. I'll be able to recover to my peak condition very quickly by absorbing the energy from the divine crystals." Jianqin declined He Qianqian's pill. With a flip of his hand, several supreme, grade divine crystals appeared. He held a few supreme, grade divine crystals in each hand as he acted like he was working hard to recover. At the back of the group, Chu Jie, Gong Rui's Kong Feiying, Zhou Ji, and Zhao Wenbin all stared at Jianqin with resentment. They swore viciously inside, Yang Yutian, "Once we leave the world of the fallen beast, I'll definitely make you die without a proper burial ground." If we want to kill Yang Yutian, there's no need to wait until we leave the world of the fallen beast. As long as we leave the Two-World Mountain and arrive in the 100 Holy City, we'll have plenty of ways to deal with him, said Chu Jie. That's right. With our identities, how difficult is it for us to kill Yang Yutian? If it weren't for Jin Hong, Yang Yutian would have died to the killing formation created by the several hundred divine kings of our Chu family already. He can fend off the 8 slaughter formations created by 8 divine kings. But can he fend off the 100 tribulations formation created by several hundred divine kings? Said Zhou Ji. The 100 tribulations formation created by several hundred divine kings, sacrificial warriors, is specially prepared for primordial realm experts. No matter how powerful this Yang Yutian is, can he be more powerful than primordial realm experts? Once the 100 tribulations formation is complete, he's dead for sure. Once we leave the Two-World Mountain, we'll find an opportunity to kill him. Chu Jie's eyes were filled with resentment. He would never be able to wash away the humiliation he had suffered today. He hated Jianqin to the bone. This originally had nothing to do with me. Zhou Ji, you just had to stand out and play the good guy. Look at you now. Not only have you gotten yourself involved, but we've all been humiliated as well. Gong Rui said resentfully. He wanted to kill Jianqin, but at the same time he hated Zhou Ji for standing up for Chu Jie. Zhou Ji, you've screwed me over this time. Zhao Wenbin and Kong Feiying communicated with each other with sunken faces. Zhou Ji's face was filled with bitterness. He was actually speechless. At that moment he felt some regret. If he had known earlier that Jianqin was so powerful, he would never have stood up for him. Everyone advanced cautiously through the Two-World Mountain. They advanced at a speed that was extremely slow for the Divine King. They did not advance in a straight line. Instead, they would change directions from time to time. This was because the ground of the Two-World Mountain was not completely still. Occasionally, there would be some shaking that was similar to an earthquake, causing slight changes in the terrain and direction. They were completely relying on a secret method to sense the direction of the 100 Saint City from a long distance away, so that they would not get lost here and would always maintain a straight line. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed since the battle between Jianqin and Chu Jie. During these 3 days, they had been attacked by many life-sucking beasts. Some were weak, while others were strong. The strongest life-sucking beast had already reached the mid-divine king realm. That battle was the most intense one they had encountered since entering the world of the fallen beast. Even Jin Hong, who is said to be the strongest in the group, personally took action. Even so, they suffered quite a lot of losses. Several dozen divine king realm deathsworn had died. Chapter 2762. As a matter of fact, without any exaggeration, the life-devouring beast was invincible among the same level of cultivation in the two-world mountain. Every single one of them was equivalent to a supreme prodigy of the saints' world. Although they were not as powerful as the legendary heavens chosen, they were more difficult to kill than the legendary heavens chosen. This was because their vitality was just too great. Their recovery rate was terrifying as well. If a cultivator on the same level as the life-devouring beast fought against them, it would be impossible for them to kill the life-devouring beast at all. The cultivator would only die from exhaustion in the end. Jianchen believed that if he came across life-devouring beasts that had reached the peak of the Divine King realm, he would probably need the supreme prodigies on the Divine King's throne to deal with them. This was because even Jin Hong, who had obtained the Grand Exalt's legacy, would not necessarily be able to deal with life-devouring beasts on such a level. Jin Hong was at mid-Divine King realm. His battle prowess was enough to kill some late Divine Kings easily. Even peak Divine Kings were not his opponent. However, these Divine Kings only referred to regular Divine Kings. The difference between the supreme prodigies on the Divine King's throne and regular Divine Kings was like the difference between heaven and earth. They were not on the same level at all. Yang Yutian, you keep saying that there's something wrong with the mist. It's already been 3 days, so why are we still standing here, perfectly fine? Chu Jie's voice suddenly rang out. He clearly resented the humiliation he had suffered 3 days ago, so he constantly targeted Jianchen. In the past 3 days, not only did we have to fight the life-sucking beasts and expend a large amount of origin energy, we also had to protect ourselves with energy at all times. This kind of consumption has far exceeded the rate at which we can recover by absorbing divine crystals. In my opinion, if this continues, I'm afraid we'll die of exhaustion before we even make it out of Two-World Mountain, Zhouji said in a strange tone. Yang Yutian, what are you planning? Speak. Do you have some ulterior motive? Those geniuses who had no enmity with Jianchen would naturally not provoke such a powerful enemy like Jianchen for no reason. However, the 5 geniuses who had been humiliated earlier did not have such concerns. As long as they had the chance, they would not let Jianchen go. I'll let you scream, because after a while you won't be able to scream even if you want to. Jianchen said coldly. He casually glanced at the other prodigies who did not use energy to protect themselves. He could sense that the gray fog gathering in their bodies had almost reached a critical point. It would probably take less than 2 days for a shocking change to occur. However, Jianchen did not point it out. In any case, he had already reminded them. He could not interfere with how others chose, nor was he willing to interfere. Moreover, he could use these people to test what kind of harm the thick fog would pose to cultivators. Yang Yutian, what do you mean by that? The faces of Chu Jie and the other 4 all changed. They seemed to have reached the end of their patience. Yang Yutian, just bear with it. Don't lower yourself to their level. Once we leave Two-World Mountain, I'll definitely stand up for you. He Qianchan was afraid that Jianchen would clash with the 5 of them again, so she hurriedly comforted him. Don't provoke us for no reason, or you'll be breaking our unity. I won't allow anything that breaks our unity in Two-World Mountain. If anyone dares to break our unity, please leave our group and leave Two-World Mountain on your own. Jin Hong also spoke up. However, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that even though Jin Hong spoke in an upright and impartial manner, he was still leaning towards Jianchen's side. This was because Chu Jie and the other 4 all came from the top forces of the Holy World. Their strength was extraordinary. On the other hand, Jianchen was just a wandering cultivator. Although his battle prowess was extraordinary, if it was a different place and environment, these heavens' prides would not take him seriously. Jin Hong took the risk of offending the 5 great forces to suppress Chu Jie, Zhou Ji, Gong Rui's, Zhao Wenbin, and Kong Feiying. This was equivalent to protecting Jianchen. Hearing Jin Hong's words, Chu Jie and the other four's faces changed. They knew how dangerous Two World Mountain was. If they really left the group, none of them had the confidence to leave Two World Mountain successfully. Right at this moment, the sound of flapping wings suddenly rang out. A violent gale suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. Waves of powerful energy formed a hurricane that wreaked havoc between heaven and earth. The sudden change caused Jin Hong's expression to change. At this moment, he could no longer maintain his composure. He shouted, "Not good! This is a group of life-sucking beasts. A large group of life-sucking beasts is attacking us. Everyone, prepare for battle." "What? A group of life-sucking beasts? Oh no, this is troublesome. In Two World Mountain, encountering a group of life-sucking beasts is the most feared. According to the records, every group of life-sucking beasts has a beast king. The more life-sucking beasts there are, the stronger the beast king is. A group of life-sucking beasts, we finally encountered one." Sigh. Hearing the mention of a group of life-sucking beasts, everyone's expression changed. Many people's faces turned pale. Chu Jie's legs could not help but tremble. At the same time, the silhouettes of huge beasts appeared in everyone's divine sense. These were 3 to 4 meters long, huge green wolves with a pair of wings on their backs. There were many of them. Just the number of huge wolves that appeared in everyone's divine sense amounted to more than 10. Moreover, this was not all of them. No one knew how many were hidden outside the range of their divine sense. There are more than 1,000 life-sucking beasts, but fortunately, most of them are below the divine king realm. There are more than 50 life-sucking beasts at the early stage of the divine king realm, and 3 at the mid-stage of the divine king realm. Jianqin thought in his heart. He swept his gaze across the several tens of thousands of divine king realm cultivators on his side and knew that they would have to pay a heavy price this time. However, there is still one life-sucking beast 200 li away that has yet to be mobilized. That life-sucking beast strength has already reached the late stage of the divine king realm. It should be the beast king of this group of life-sucking beasts. Jianqin's eyes flashed. He knew that they had intruded into the territory of this group of life-sucking beasts. Once the late-stage divine king realm beast king was alerted, the consequences would be dire. He clearly saw the beast king's strength. As the beast king of this group of life-sucking beasts, its strength was stronger than most of the late-stage divine king realm life-sucking beasts. Even Jin Hong would have no choice but to run for his life if he encountered it. At this moment, the large group had already become embroiled in an intense battle with the life-sucking beasts. As soon as a few deities and gods appeared, they were slaughtered by the divine king realm Deathsworn. In just a single clash, several dozen deities and gods were reduced to pieces. Their corpses were completely obliterated. Only the over-god realm life-sucking beasts were able to last for a while before the divine king realm Deathsworn. However, it was only for a while. The difference in strength and numbers made it so that the over-god realm life-sucking beasts were unable to escape death in the end. The battle below the divine king realm was completely one-sided. The life-sucking beasts suffered heavy casualties. However, the battle between divine king realm Deathsworn was extraordinarily intense. Over 50 early divine king realm life-sucking beasts rampaged through the group of Deathsworn nurtured by the 100 Calamity Divine King Pill. The wings on their backs constantly flapped, and they moved extremely quickly. As they moved through the crowd, they would open their mouths and bite the Deathsworn warriors from time to time. Afterwards, they would hold the Deathsworn warriors in their mouths, rapidly absorbing their vitality as they dodged the attacks of everyone with great agility. As a result, it was very difficult for the Deathsworn warriors to attack them. As they absorbed their vitality, the life-sucking beast's strength gradually increased. Chapter 27:63. Jin Hong's expression turned grave. There are more than 50 divine king realm life-sucking beasts. This is the most serious crisis we've faced since we entered the Two World Mountain. Yang Yutian, let's quickly kill these life-sucking beasts and reduce our casualties as much as possible. Over 50 early God King life-devouring beasts were obviously not enough to wipe out Jin Hong's group. However, it was enough to weaken the group by 20 or 30%. It was a great blow to their vitality. However, all the prodigies here did not enter the realm of the fallen beast to fight with the life-sucking beasts. Instead, they went to the 100 Saints city to suppress the changes in the city. If they lost too much of their strength here, they would not have enough strength to deal with the changes in the city, even if they managed to walk out of the two-world mountain. By then, their efforts to enter the realm of the fallen beast would be meaningless. Jin Hong understood this very well. That was why he immediately notified Jianqin to act. In this team, only he and Jianqin could kill the life-sucking beasts quickly. For every life-sucking beast that died, a few more Divine King realm men of sacrifice would survive. Before Jin Hong could make a move, 3 auras that were much more powerful than the early-stage Divine King realm life-sucking beasts suddenly appeared. They covered the entire battlefield like towering mountains. Jin Hong's divine sense, which could only extend to a range of 20 or so li, immediately discovered 3 winged green wolves that were 10 meters long emerging from the dense fog. Their turbid eyes, which did not have the slightest trace of light, flickered with a scarlet light as they unhurriedly approached the battlefield. Oh no! Mid-stage Divine King realm life-sucking beasts. Jin Hong's expression changed as he immediately transmitted a message to all the prodigies here. What? Another mid-stage Divine King realm life-sucking beast? And there are 3 of them this time. A few days ago, we encountered a mid-stage Divine King realm life-sucking beast. That was already a huge loss for us. It took us a lot of effort to kill it. Now there are 3 of them. How are we supposed to survive? Apart from Jianqin, the expressions of all the heavens' prides changed. Even He Qianqian's heart became heavy. A few days ago, they had encountered the Divine King life-sucking beast. Its strength had already left an indelible shadow in their hearts. Just one of them was already so difficult to kill. Now that there were 3 of them, the hearts of many of the geniuses sank. A mid-stage Divine King life-sucking beast. Its overall strength is no weaker than a late-stage Divine King. If I do my best, I should be able to kill one, Jin Hong said in a low voice. Then he looked at Jianqin. I think I should be able to hold off one, Jianqin said in an uncertain tone, as if he was not very confident. All right then. Of the 3 life-sucking beasts, I will deal with one, Yang Yutian will deal with one, and the remaining one will be fine if all of you work together. Yang Yutian, no matter what method you use, you must hold off the life-sucking beast for an hour. I will kill one within an hour, and then immediately come to help you, Jin Hong said in a low voice. Brother Yang Yutian, as long as you can hold him off for an hour, you will be the hero of our group. All of us will owe you a favor. In the future, when we leave Two Worlds Mountain, if Chu Jie and the others still make things difficult for you, then I will definitely stand by your side, a heaven's pride said. His name was Ping Yixing, and he was the leader of the Emperor Lotus Sword sect. Count me in. Our Sun family is not afraid of the Chu family, the Gong family, the Zhao family, the Tsang family, and the Jade sect. The leader of the Sun family also stood up. And our Man family. At this moment, more than a dozen people from the great families spoke out in support of Jianqin. These people's attitudes made Chu Jie, Kong Feiying, Zhou Ji, Zhao Wenbin, and Gong Rui's faces become extremely ugly, as if their parents had just died. At this moment, Jin Hong had already flown out and engaged in a fierce battle with one of the Divine King realm mid-stage life-sucking beasts. The sound of energy colliding rang out incessantly, and it was extremely intense. Jianqin did not exchange too many pleasantries. He cupped his fists at the crowd, and then in a flash he followed closely behind Jin Hong. Soon he was engaged in a fierce battle with the second life life-sucking beast. As for the third divine king realm mid-stage life-sucking beast, the remaining heaven's prides each led a few divine king realm death warriors and gathered the strength of hundreds of people to surround and attack it. Everyone, use all your strength to seal your life force. Don't let our life force become the energy to increase the life-sucking beast strength. Jianqin and Jin Hong were still fine. If the life-sucking beast did not hit them, it would not be able to absorb their life force. However, the group of heaven's prides who were facing the third life-sucking beast was unlucky. Almost all of them were in the early divine king realm, facing a mid-stage divine king realm life-sucking beast. There was no need for the life-sucking beast to hit them. When they got close enough, the life force in their body would automatically be absorbed. Even if they did their best to seal their life force, it would still slowly drain away. All of the life force that was drained away had entered the life-sucking beast's body, causing its strength to continuously increase. In the face of such a situation, there was nothing they could do. They could only grit their teeth and endure, even if they had to reduce their numbers. Due to the difference in realms, the disparity in strength between them and the life-sucking beast was very large. They had to rely on their numbers to suppress the life-sucking beast. Only then would they have a higher chance of survival. Without the support of the divine king realm death warriors, the life-sucking beast's life force would be greatly reduced. However, this group of heaven's prides would also lose some of their lives. None of them were willing to be the first to die. Therefore, they would rather let the life-sucking beast slowly grow stronger than withdraw the divine king realm death warriors. In an instant, the battlefield was divided into 4 battlefields. The 3 mid-stage divine king realm life-sucking beasts each formed a battlefield. Each battlefield maintained a safe distance to limit the life-sucking beast's life force. The 4th battlefield was a large group of divine king realm death warriors besieging a group of mid-stage divine king realm life-sucking beasts. By now, the number of mid-stage divine king realm life-sucking beasts had been reduced from 50 to 40. Nearly 10 life-sucking beasts had been killed by the death warriors. However, the divine king realm death warriors had also paid a heavy price. Many of them had fallen. Wolf sovereign protection. Suddenly, Jin Hong called out. Powerful energy surged, forming a huge wolf. The wolf was blurry, so it was impossible to make out its full appearance. However, as soon as it appeared, a supreme pressure permeated the surroundings as if it was the ruler of the world. Ancient Sky Wolf. Jianqin stared at the blurry wolf from afar. Even though it was so blurry that he could make out its full appearance, he could still tell that it was the sovereign of the world in the past. It was an expert who had reached the limits of grand prime and comprehended laws. It was an existence that was basically like the laws of the world, the ancient Skywolf. As soon as the figure of the ancient Skywolf appeared, Jin Hong's battle prowess suddenly multiplied. The life-sucking beasts all came to a halt at that moment, as if the presence of the ancient Skywolf had affected them slightly. Whether it was the early divine king realm life-sucking beasts or the 3 mid-divine king realm life-sucking beasts, they all became momentarily stunned. However, it was this moment of blankness that caused them to pay an extremely heavy price. Immediately, 8 of the early divine king realm life-sucking beasts were reduced to pieces, while the remaining 30-odd wolves suffered injuries of varying degrees. Wolf God's Claw! Jin Hong bellowed out, and the figure of the ancient Skywolf behind him moved with him. As if Jin Hong had become the ancient Skywolf himself, he directly struck the head of the wolf with his claw. A small half of the dual-winged green wolf's head exploded, and half of its eye was shattered. Its entire body was sent flying by Jin Hong's attack. At that moment, Jin Hong seemed to be protected by the Skywolf. He was incomparably valiant. With a single movement of his body, he actually caught up to the wolf that was still flying in the air. He spread his arms wide, and a pair of powerful palms directly grabbed the wolf's wings. With a violent rip, the mid-Divine King realm life-sucking beast's wings were forcefully torn apart by Jin Hong. Afterwards, he let out a long howl at the sky. His howl was extremely loud, like the howl of the ancient sky wolf, intimidating the heavens. All of a sudden, his head turned into a wolf's head. This was a wolf's head covered in golden fur. He was like the emperor of the wolf clan, possessing a dignified and noble air that commanded the masses. He was inviolable. At that moment, Jin Hong had shockingly transformed into a wolf's head and a human's body. He possessed the body of a human and the head of a wolf. He abruptly opened his bloody maw and bit down on the remaining half of the life-sucking beast's head with lightning speed. This action also triggered the shadow of the ancient skywolf behind him. The shadow of the ancient skywolf mimicked Jin Hong's action and bit down. Somehow, Jin Hong seemed to have received the blessing of the ancient skywolf. With a crisp crack, the life-sucking beast's head was crushed by Jin Hong's bite. This time, the life-sucking beast's injuries could no longer be healed. Even if it still had a huge amount of life force stored in its body, it was useless. After Jin Hong used the divine wolf armor, it was as if he had received the support of the ancient skywolf. Every move was not only powerful, but also extraordinary. It seemed to contain endless mysteries that directly cut off the life-sucking beast's life force. Jin Hong had previously said that he would kill the life-sucking beast in an hour, but in less than an incense stick's worth of time, he had already achieved a complete victory. Look over there. The life-sucking beast of the Divine King realm has actually been killed by Jin Hong. Jin Hong really is worthy of being the successor of a Grand Exalt. This is probably his true strength. He's actually so powerful. He's probably already qualified to be ranked among the Divine King. Jin Hong is actually so terrifying. He's only at the mid-Divine King realm right now. If he reaches the late Divine King realm, wouldn't he be in the top 10 for sure? Top 10? You're underestimating young Master Jin Hong too much. As soon as young Master Jin Hong reaches the late Divine King realm, he'll definitely take first place among the Divine Kings. Jin Hong's lightning-quick ending of the battle was naturally seen by all the prodigies. It immediately roused their spirits. They could already see the dawn of victory. Chapter 2764. Yang Yutian, I'll lend you a hand. Let's work together and kill this life-devouring beast. After killing the Divine King realm life-devouring beast, Jin Hong dispelled the Wolf Sovereign's protection. The huge figure of the ancient Skywolf behind him immediately vanished. Jin Hong's presence returned to normal, and he immediately rushed towards Jianqin. Although the Wolf Sovereign's protection was powerful, it also consumed an extremely large amount of energy. It was so expensive that Jin Hong was unwilling to maintain it for too long. He would rather expend some energy to fight the life-devouring beast with Jianqin than continue killing a second life-devouring beast with the Wolf Sovereign's protection. On the other side, Jianqin purposefully acted like he was struggling as he fought the life-devouring beast. When he saw Jin Hong flying towards him, he suddenly thought of something and said, "There's no need. I can still hold on. Jin Hong, go deal with the other life-devouring beast first." At this moment, the third Divine King realm life-devouring beast was engaged in a massacre. It forced the several dozen prodigies and the Divine King realm Deathsworn into retreat. It completely gained the upper hand. Half of the several dozen prodigies were injured to varying degrees. They were covered in blood. Several Divine King realm Deathsworn had already died in the mouth of the life-devouring beast. Faced with the encirclement of so many prodigies, the Divine King realm life-devouring beast was also injured repeatedly. Although the prodigies were not as strong as the life-devouring beast, they were still from peak clans in the Saints' world after all. They all possessed powerful and ancient secret techniques. Some of the secret techniques could even allow them to unleash attacks that were equivalent to mid-Divine King realm Deathsworn with their early Divine King realm cultivation. When the powerful secret techniques landed on the life-devouring beast. They inflicted very heavy injuries. However, these injuries were nothing to the life-devouring beast, who possessed extremely powerful vitality. This was especially true after absorbing the life force of the Divine King's Deathsworn. Not only did the life-sucking beast's strength increase, they also had more life force to heal their wounds. Without the help of Jianqin and Jinhong, who could exhibit the strength of a late-stage Divine King, it would be extremely difficult for these early-stage Divine King warriors to kill a mid-stage Divine King life-sucking beast. After hearing Jianqin's words, Jinhong's figure suddenly paused. He quickly swept his gaze across the two sides of the battlefield and saw the situation clearly at a glance. This Yang Yutian is very strong. It may seem difficult for him to deal with a mid-stage Divine King realm life-sucking beast alone, but it's impossible for him to be defeated in a short period of time. However, the other side is already at a disadvantage. Someone could die at any time. Thinking quickly, Jinhong immediately changed his direction. He no longer flew towards Jianqin. Instead, he charged towards the third life-sucking beast to rescue the remaining sky prides. PFFF. Jinhong's speed was extremely fast. He appeared in front of the life-sucking beast, like a bolt of lightning. His hand turned into a claw and directly grabbed the life-sucking beast's hind leg. With a violent rip, a large piece of flesh was torn off the life-sucking beast's hind leg. Great, young Master Jinhong is here. Since young Master Jinhong is here, this life-sucking beast is dead for sure. Everyone, go all out and help young Master Jinhong kill this life-sucking beast. Jinhong's arrival instantly raised everyone's morale to the peak. This time, everyone went all out without holding back. All kinds of powerful secret techniques were used to help Jinhong kill the life-sucking beast. Jianqin looked at the battlefield from afar. His eyes flickered as he thought to himself, there are a lot of life-sucking beasts within the range of my divine sense. If this continues, I don't know when we'll be able to walk out of the Two-World Mountain. The Two-World Mountain is too big. Even with my divine sense, I can only see a part of it. I don't even know where the exit is. Moreover, the unique terrain here is constantly changing. If we move in a straight line, I'm afraid we'll only be going around in circles. If we want to get out, we'll need them to lead the way. Looks like if I want to get out of the Two-World Mountain as soon as possible, I'll have to leave the group. I'll clear the obstacles in front of them so that they can move forward without any obstructions. Only then will they be able to get out of the Two-World Mountain in the shortest time possible. Suddenly, a sharp light flashed through Jianqin's eyes. 100 kilometers away, there was a small mountain range. At the very center of the mountain range, on the highest peak, a huge winged wolf covered in golden fur lay there quietly. It breathed in the essence of the world and cultivated. The huge golden wolf was clearly a life-sucking beast. However, the energy it gave off was extremely powerful. It had reached late Divine King, let alone the Two-World Mountain. Late Divine King was an existence that reigned supreme across the entire world of the fallen beast. This was because the strongest experts in the world of the fallen beast were only infinite primes, and there were so few of them that they could be counted. As a late Divine King that was only second to the primordial realm, his status was naturally extraordinary. Suddenly, a powerful strand of sword chi condensed in the air above the golden wolf. Before the golden wolf could react, the sword chi directly stabbed towards it, leaving behind a deep gash. The huge golden wolf suddenly roused from its cultivation. Its eyes snapped open, and while its scarlet eyes were filled with fury, there was also a sliver of light. It was as if it possessed a weak intelligence now that it had reached late Divine King, unlike other life-sucking beasts that acted on their instincts. Of course, its intelligence was just so weak that it could not even communicate with it. After rousing, the huge golden wolf produced a great roar. Its voice rang through the sky, and it possessed enough power to shatter rocks. It shattered the vegetation and shattered the rocks. Afterwards, it looked around as if it had sensed something. It immediately locked onto the direction of Genshin's group and shot off like an arrow. 100 kilometers away, Jin Hong and the prodigies who were fighting the life-sucking beast heard the shocking howl as well. All of their expressions changed drastically. This sound is it a late divine king life-sucking beast? A prodigy said with an ugly expression. A mid-divine king life-sucking beast is already so difficult to deal with, let alone late divine king life-sucking beasts. Probably only primordial realm experts can kill late divine king life-sucking beasts. Another prodigy said with difficulty as his voice trembled. This is bad. Facing a life-sucking beast at the late divine king realm. I'm afraid we won't even be able to escape. Ping Yixing from the Emperor Lotus Sword Sect said as his heart sank. He felt like he was in trouble. Wolf Sovereign's protection. Jin Hong bellowed out and used the Wolf Sovereign's protection again. A tremendous presence appeared, and the figure of the ancient Skywolf appeared behind him once again. With the Wolf Sovereign's protection, his battle prowess skyrocketed. In just a few clashes, he tore the life-sucking beast that all the prodigies could not kill to pieces. Afterwards, he said loudly, "All of you, assist Yang Yutian in killing the last mid-divine king life-sucking beast. Then immediately leave as quickly as you can. I'll draw the Beast King away." Chapter 27:65. Genshin did not extend his hand to catch the divine temple flying towards him. Instead, he looked at Jin Hong's resolute face with a hint of surprise in his eyes. He didn't expect Jin Hong to have the spirit of sacrificing himself to save others. Facing the life-sucking Beast King that he couldn't defeat, Jin Hong didn't think of escaping by himself. Instead, he chose to risk his life to lure the life-sucking Beast King away so that everyone could escape. After all, Jin Hong did not have a deep friendship with these Heaven's Prides here. Strictly speaking, they could not even be considered as ordinary friends. They could only be regarded as strangers. They only formed a group because of their family's elders and shared a common goal. For such a faint friendship, Jin Hong was actually willing to sacrifice himself for others. This made Genshin's view of Jin Hong change once again. Wait a moment, young Master Jin Hong. You are now the backbone of all of us. You must not leave us. Otherwise, without your leadership, we will not be able to survive. Without you, even if we can temporarily escape, the road ahead will be very difficult. Why don't we let Yang Yutian lure the life-sucking Beast King away? After all, Yang Yutian's strength is obvious to all of us. I, Zhou Ji, believe that Yang Yutian will be able to complete such a heavy responsibility. Zhou Ji's voice suddenly sounded. Previously, Genshin had made him lose face, causing him to hate Genshin. Now that such a good opportunity was in front of him, he naturally would not let it go. He wanted to ruthlessly scheme against Genshin. Zhou Ji is right. Not only is Yang Yutian strong, but he is also proficient in the law of space. He is the most suitable person to lure the life-sucking Beast King away. After all, when it comes to escaping, the law of space is faster than the law of space. Who can be faster than the space laws? Chu Jie did not forget to add insult to injury as a cold smile appeared on his face. Zhou Ji, Chu Jie. He Qian was infuriated. How could she not know that Chu Jie and Chu Jie wanted Yang Yutian to die? After all, the two-world mountains were not like the outside world. Once exhausted, it would not be as easy to recover as it was in the Saints' world. With Yang Yutian's mastery of the laws of space, let alone whether he could escape from the Divine King's pursuit, even if he did escape, who could guarantee that he would not encounter other powerful, life-devouring beasts? Taking a step back, even if Yang Yutian was lucky enough to survive, he would be completely lost in the two-world mountain after being separated from the group. One could only imagine what would happen to him. It was because the direction to the 100 Saints City could only be grasped by the people who participated in the construction of the 100 Sane City. Furthermore, this method could not be divulged, nor could it be divulged. However, He Qianqian just happened to be unable to find any words to refute them at this moment, because she would offend Jin Hong as soon as she spoke. Jianqin's face did not change at all. He glanced at Chu Jie and Zhou Ji coldly. Even though he originally wanted to use this opportunity to leave the group, killing intent still rose in his heart from what the two of them had done. Afterwards, he extended a finger and sent a gust of wind towards the Divine Hall, sending it back into Jin Hong's hands. Young Master Jin Hong, leave the life-devouring Beast King to me. I have grasped the laws of space, so I have the advantage in speed. I believe it won't be a problem to lure it away. Miss Qian, you have to keep this Divine Hall well. I know that it's extremely likely that I'll get lost in Two World Mountain after leaving, so I left behind a sliver of the power of my soul in the Divine Hall. If I die, the power of my soul will disperse. If I survive, I'll be able to sense the power of my soul and find the correct direction. Perhaps I'll be able to catch up to you. As he said that, Jianqin pulled out a Divine Hall that was a supreme quality saint artifact from his space ring and tossed it to He Qianqian. Afterwards, he immediately abandoned the Divine King, Realm, life-devouring beast he was dealing with and vanished with a flash, vanishing into the hazy mist. Yang Yutian, you have to be careful. I'll be waiting for your safe return. Jin Hong stared in the direction Jianqin had vanished in with some mixed feelings. Afterwards, he immediately unleashed his full strength and engaged in an intense battle with the Divine King, Realm, life-devouring beast that Jianqin had dealt with. In the end, all the life-devouring beasts were slain by Jin Hong's full-powered attacks with the Wolf Exalt's armor. Afterwards, everyone left as quickly as they could, not even taking the valuable corpse of the life-devouring beast with them. In the end, they had lost over 1,000 Divine King, Realm death-sworn in the battle. Many of the prodigies were injured to varying degrees. Humph, Yang Yutian, I refuse to believe that you're still alive now. I refuse to believe that you can escape from a life-devouring Beast King in Two World Mountain with your laws of space. The group rapidly left. Chu Jie, who followed closely behind them, felt extremely satisfied. The humiliation he had suffered had also dissipated slightly. This was because he believed that Jianqin would definitely die if he left. Yang Yutian, I hope you can return safely. He Qianqian, will definitely protect this Divine Hall well so that you can find the right direction to catch up to us. He Qianqian clenched the Divine Hall that Jianqin had left behind tightly. She could sense the strand of power from Jianqin's soul that he had left in there at all times. She secretly wished him well. Since Yang Yutian was so powerful, He Qianqian naturally hoped that he could return safely. At the very least, he was still a member of the Tianhe clan. He could make the Tianhe clan much more intimidating in the world of the fallen beast. Brother Yang Yutian, I hope you can survive. Apart from that, many other prodigies secretly prayed as well. They did not have any grudges with Jianqin, so they were all moved by Jianqin's actions. On the other side, Jianqin had finally broken free of all restraints after leaving the group. He could fully display his abilities now. He lured the life-devouring Beast King away from afar and flew off in the opposite direction of He Qianqian and the others. In the end, he stopped a few thousand kilometers away from the group and waited with his arms crossed. A while later, a powerful gust of wind blew over. The golden wolf with a pair of wings on its back flapped its wings as it appeared before Jianqin. The might of a late Divine King, Realm Beast King, radiated from the golden wolf, causing all the life-devouring beasts within 100 kilometers to prostrate themselves on the ground in fear. A late Divine King, Realm Beast King, was already the indisputable king of the Two-World Mountain region. It already possessed a rudimentary level of intelligence and had its own territory. As soon as the golden wolf saw Jianqin, it immediately roared and pounced towards Jianqin. At the same time, A mysterious devouring force spread out and enveloped Jianqin. In the face of the life-devouring Beast King, Jianqin was unfazed. The life-devouring Beast King's terrifying ability to devour life force was laughable in front of Jianqin. Jianqin opened his mouth and gently exhaled. The air he exhaled turned into a dazzling ray of sword light. It emitted a powerful sword intent as it shot out and pierced through the life-devouring Beast King's body. Immediately after, the life-devouring Beast King, which struck fear into the hearts of many prodigies, was split into two halves with its nose as the center. Not only did the sword light cut open its body, but it also destroyed any possibility of its recovery and resurrection. Chapter 2766. The corpses of life-devouring beasts were extremely valuable. The stronger the life-devouring beast, the more expensive it would be. As a result, Jianqin naturally would not abandon the late Divine King, life-devouring Beast King here. Instead, he took out a space ring and stowed the life-devouring Beast King's corpse away. Life-devouring beasts were unique to the world of the fallen beast. They were created by the unique environment of the world of the fallen beast, so they could not survive outside. As a result, there were no life-devouring beasts in the saints' world. Even if there were, they would be corpses from the world of the fallen beast. The tremendous life force within them was a supreme grade material for refining many high-grade divine pills. As a result, the corpses of life-devouring beasts were an important resource that many peak organizations fought over in the saints' world. Even peak experts who had become grand primes placed great importance on the life-devouring beast. This was because the pills refined from life-devouring beasts would be mid-grade, high-grade, or supreme-grade god pills at the very least. Grand primes fought and were injured as well. Naturally, they could not avoid using high-level god pills to heal. As a result, the corpses of life-devouring beasts were strategic resources that all peak organizations and peak experts in the saints' world would fight over. Even though Jianqin had only learned about the existence of life-devouring beasts recently, he had already learned a lot about them from He Qianqian. As a result, he understood just how valuable life-devouring beasts were in the saints' world. Now that he had been freed, he obviously would not give up on this great opportunity to collect the corpses of life-devouring beasts. As a result, he did not stop after collecting the life-devouring Beast King's corpse. With a flash, he flew towards a second group of life-devouring beasts. Jianqin was completely fearless in the dangerous Two World Mountains. Nothing could make him fear. He moved with lightning speed, appearing 1,000 kilometers away in just a few seconds. This was the second place where Jianqin's divine sense had detected a large group of life-sucking beasts. On a mountain peak in front of him, there were several thousand life-sucking beasts' auras. There was a late-stage Divine King Realm life-sucking Beast King guarding the peak. 5 mid-stage Divine King Realm life-sucking beasts, and over 100 early-stage Divine King Realm life-sucking beasts. The rest were all life-sucking beasts below the level of the Divine King. As soon as Jianqin arrived, he did not make a move. However, his eyes turned silver white, as if there was endless sword intent contained within them. At this moment, he directly used the will of the Supreme Sword Tao. Once the Supreme Sword Tao was unleashed, the heavens and earth were under his control. The life and death of all living beings within a radius of 100,000 miles were at his mercy. The mountain peak where several thousand life-sucking beasts lived was enveloped by a powerful sword intent in a single instance. At this moment, the flowing air, the unique energy in the surroundings, and even the grass, the trees, the sand, and the pebbles on the ground had all been transformed into extremely sharp sword qi. Countless strands of sword qi filled the space there in layers, radiating with a presence that could destroy everything. Die. At this moment, Jianqin had truly become the ruler of the world. With a thought, the several thousand life-sucking beasts in the mountain peak, including the life-sucking Beast King, died before they could even cry out or struggle. They had been slain by Genshin's will of the supreme Sword Tao. No one below the primordial realm could endure the will of Genshin's supreme Sword Tao. The only way to survive before Genshin's will was to reach the primordial realm. In the blink of an eye, a sizable group of life-sucking beasts that were even more powerful than the two-winged azure wolves the group had encountered earlier had been wiped out. If Jin Hong and the others had seen this, they would probably have been frightened out of their wits. Genshin stowed away all the corpses of the life-sucking beasts, but when he stowed away all the corpses in his space ring, there was no more space left. It had been filled to the brim. It's a pity that the space in my space ring isn't very large due to the grade restriction. Just this wave of life-devouring beasts has already filled up my space ring. It looks like I need to find even more space rings, Genshin sighed inwardly. Looking at the space ring in his hand, Genshin frowned. Afterwards, he looked at the path he had come from. After a moment of hesitation, he immediately left through the laws of space. Within the two-world mountain, the senses of his soul could envelop a radius of 10 million kilometers. He had been traveling with the group over the past few days, so he was still within this range. As a result, the battle between the group and the life-devouring beast was still within the range of Genshin's soul. Afterwards, Genshin returned to the battlefield with terrifying speed. He collected a large number of space rings from the fallen warriors before continuing his journey of hunting with them. In just 3 days, several tens of thousands of life-sucking beasts had died to Genshin's hands. The life-sucking beasts varied in size. The smaller ones were only a few meters long, while the larger ones were several hundred meters long. He collected all the corpses of the life-sucking beasts. Half of the space rings he had collected from the fallen warriors had been used up in an instant. In Genshin's eyes, the extremely dangerous two-world mountain was not a place of danger at all. Instead, it had become a paradise where he could come and go as he pleased. During these 3 days, the large group led by Jin Hong had a peaceful journey. They did not encounter any attacks from life-sucking beasts, allowing them to gradually increase their speed of advancement. Yeah, they're getting faster and faster. At this rate, I believe it won't be long before they leave the two-world mountain. It's a pity that I still can't find the exit of the two-world mountain even after extending my senses to 10 million kilometers. Several hundred kilometers away, Genshin sat on the back of a huge condor that was 300 meters long. The condor flew 1,000 meters in the air, slowly advancing in front of the group. Under Genshin's control, it maintained a certain distance from the group at the back at all times. This huge condor was also a life-sucking beast. Its cultivation was at the late Divine King realm. As a late Divine King realm life-sucking beast king, it already possessed some faint intelligence. Thus, Genshin had forcefully subdued it and temporarily used it as a mount. Chapter 27:67. Several hundred kilometers behind Genshin, Jin Hong led a large group of several tens of thousands of Divine King realm kamikaze warriors as they silently advanced through the forest. They would pass by some swamps and rivers from time to time, so all of their feet were off the ground. They maintained a low altitude. They all concealed their presences. Even the cultivators who used energy to protect themselves carefully controlled their pulses of energy, doing their best to conceal themselves. As a result, even though there were many people in the group, they strangely did not cause any disturbances at all. From afar, they seemed like a group of ghosts moving through the forest. It's already been 3 days, and we haven't even come across a single life-devouring beast. It's been extraordinarily peaceful along the way. Young Master Jin Hong really has great foresight. He's come up with a plan that saved us a lot of unnecessary trouble, Guang Wanhua from the Crimson Light clan said excitedly at the front of the group. He originally feared the two-world mountain very much, to the point where he did not even dare to set foot in it. Every battle he had experienced before had shaken him to the core. He had basically been dancing on the line between life and death every time. If he was careless, he would fall into a bottomless abyss and be doomed forever. However, the 3 days of peace immediately made Guang Wanhua feel that the Two-World Mountain was not as terrifying as the rumors made it out to be. I really hope that the journey can continue like this so that we can leave the Two-World Mountain as soon as possible. As long as we leave the Two-World Mountain, we'll basically be safe, He Chan from the Heavenly Crane Divine Hall said eagerly. Don't be too happy yet. It's not necessarily safe to leave Two-World Mountain. We don't know what happened to the 100 Saints city that we've been running for so many years. I reckon that even if we walk out of Two-World Mountain alive, we'll be facing a new round of challenges, Ping Yixing from Emperor Lotus Sword Sect said in a deep voice. As soon as Ping Yixing finished speaking, a prodigy refuted him. What's so scary about that? We've brought so many kamikaze warriors into the world of the fallen beast on an unprecedented scale. Our goal is to quell all the unstable factors in the world of the fallen beast. The sacrificial warriors we've brought with us can't be used at all in Two-World Mountain. They're not suited for fighting the life-devouring beast. However, once we leave Two-World Mountain, we'll be able to cause a storm of blood among the Darkstar race with our strength. That's right. As long as we leave Two-World Mountain, the formation formed by the sacrificial warriors we've brought will be enough to fend off infinite primes. Just how many primordial realm experts do the Darkstar race possess? The Darkstar race is nothing to worry about. What we really need to be wary of are the life-sucking beasts. They're our main enemy. Everyone was communicating through voice transmission, so not a single sound could be heard. Many of the prodigies' words were filled with disdain for the Darkstar race. The strongest expert of the Darkstar clan, the Darkstar Emperor, was only a 9th heavenly layer infinite prime. On the other hand, every single one of the clans behind them possessed a grand prime. Some clans even had more than one grand prime. This caused some of them to look down on the Darkstar race from the bottom of their hearts. Everyone be quiet. At this moment, Jin Hong shouted in a low voice, and everyone's conversation came to an abrupt halt. They instantly became nervous, and their expressions became solemn and cautious, thinking that a new crisis was about to befall them. Jin Hong didn't say anything. He closed his eyes and carefully sensed the surroundings. After a while, when he opened his eyes, a beam of light flashed. His figure disappeared from everyone's sight in a flash and appeared in front of a cave a few miles away. Behind him, the prodigies all arrived with the Divine King Realm kamikaze warriors. They all held their breaths as they stood behind Jin Hong nervously and sternly. Young Master Jin Hong, is there something wrong? Son, Ji could not help but ask after looking around. Jin Hong stared unblinkingly at the pitch-black cave for a moment, then swept his sharp gaze across the surroundings. His brows were tightly knitted together, and after a long silence he said, "There used to be a sizable group of life-sucking beasts in this place. Looking at the traces in the surroundings, there should be a lot of life-sucking beasts here. This cave in front of us is the habitat of the life-sucking beast king. But for some reason, all the life-sucking beasts have disappeared." Everyone subconsciously looked around when they heard that. Indeed, there were quite a few traces of life-sucking beasts. They immediately shivered inside and became nervous for some reason. The life-sucking beasts probably moved away en masse, Kong Feing from the Tsangchun clan said casually. As soon as this was said, many people secretly nodded in agreement. That's not right. Jin Hong shook his head and frowned. Along the way, this is the second place I've found where the life-sucking beasts lived. The situation in these two places is exactly the same. There are no traces of battle, but all the life-sucking beasts have disappeared. Judging from the aura left behind, these life-sucking beasts have disappeared within the past 2 or 3 days. Furthermore, I used a secret technique to sense the aura and found that these life-sucking beasts did not move away. With such a large group of life-sucking beasts moving away, even if they did not leave any traces behind, there should still be some aura left behind. The strong aura is not something that can be dissipated in a short period of time. Using my secret technique, I can't sense the aura of the life-sucking beasts at all. At the same time, there are no traces of them leaving. It's as if all the life-sucking beasts disappeared into thin air here. This is the last trace they left behind before they disappeared. For a moment, everyone fell silent. A huge group of beasts had suddenly disappeared without a trace. This strange scene made many people feel uneasy. Could it be that they were all killed and their corpses were taken away? He Qian asked in a somewhat stiff tone. That's even more impossible. Ping Yixing immediately rejected this possibility. He said, "From the looks of the traces, there are quite a few life-sucking beasts here. At the very least, there's a late divine king life-sucking beast king here. Even infinite primes would struggle to kill so many life-sucking beasts without leaving any traces behind." That's true. Although infinite primes can easily wipe out a group of life-sucking beasts, they definitely can't do it so cleanly. At the very least, they need to leave behind some traces of battle. However, there are no traces of battle here, said Man Yunjun from the Man family. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's leave quickly. The light in Jin Hong's eyes flickered as he ordered sternly. Chapter 2768. The scream was particularly ear-piercing in this quiet environment where everyone was communicating via voice transmission. It was no less ear-piercing than a sudden clap of thunder. What's going on? What happened? Could it be that the life-sucking beasts are attacking us again? In an instant, dozens of sky prides standing in front of the cave felt their hearts tighten. First, a large number of life-sucking beasts had mysteriously disappeared. This inexplicable and bizarre scene had already made them feel uneasy. Now that a scream had suddenly sounded, everyone's nerves were stretched taut, and they were extremely nervous. After the scream, a commotion broke out at the back of the group. Waves of energy fluctuations could be felt, followed by the sounds of fighting. Jin Hong's expression changed. His body turned into a shadow and immediately disappeared. He flew toward the back as fast as he could. The rest of the supreme talents hesitated for a moment before they followed him one after another. When Jin Hong arrived at the scene of the commotion, he saw several men of sacrifice trained by the divine King Dan. Their eyes were emitting a dark green light, and their bodies were emitting a chaotic and violent aura. They were madly attacking the people around them. Jia Yunlong, what's wrong with you? Why did you suddenly attack me? Lu Chengshui, what are you doing? We're good brothers who have gone through thick and thin together. Why did you suddenly attack me? Old Zhou, what's wrong with you? Why don't you stop? Don't forget who we are. You'll be executed by the young master. More than 20 cultivators who were also death warriors were caught off guard. Under this sneak attack, they were already seriously injured. They all looked at their companions in disbelief, letting out angry and puzzled roars. However, the several death warriors with dark green eyes didn't seem to hear them at all. They roared like wild beasts and attacked all the nearby cultivators with all their strength. Jin Hong stood on a nearby tree, frowning as he watched this scene. His eyes flashed, and he seemed to be deep in thought. The leaders of the remaining forces also arrived. They either stood on the trees or hovered in the air. They all looked at the men of sacrifice who had caused the commotion with surprise. One of them is one of our Chu clan's men of sacrifice. What happened to him? Chu Jia floated in midair and looked at his subordinate, who did not differentiate between friend and foe and crazily attacked his own people. His expression became somewhat ugly. Capture these rebels for me. Bai Zhan Xiong from the Bai Zhan clan coldly shouted, and immediately gave the order. Immediately, the death warriors of the 100 Battles clan acted together. With their combined strength, they quickly suppressed the death warriors who had lost their minds. However, even though these death warriors were suppressed to the point where they couldn't move, they didn't have the slightest intention of calming down. The dark green light in their eyes became more and more intense as they struggled desperately. As the light in their eyes grew stronger, their strength also increased. Vaguely, there was a kind of momentum that exceeded their own strength. I can't suppress it anymore. Quick, get a few more people. One of the death warriors who participated in the suppression began to call for help loudly. Immediately, a few more death warriors joined in. In the end, a total of 8 death warriors worked together to suppress one of them. This was a shocking thing because these death warriors were all nurtured by the 100 Calamity Divine King Dan, so the difference in strength between them was not very big. They only needed 2 or 3 people to work together, and they could easily suppress one person. However, at this moment, a total of 8 people were needed to do this. This meant that these death warriors who had lost their minds were at least 2 or 3 times stronger. What's going on? Why have they become like this? Chu Jia was somewhat at a loss. His face was filled with confusion. No one could answer his question. In fact, the changes that had happened at this very moment made many people unable to understand what was going on. Jin Hong stared unblinkingly at the eyes of the death warriors that were emitting dark green light. His expression gradually became serious. Then, as if he had confirmed something, his expression abruptly changed. He immediately shouted, "Quick! Everyone use energy to protect yourselves and isolate yourself from the fog." What? All of this is caused by the fog here? But how is this possible? How is this possible? This is just ordinary fog. How can it have such a strange ability? Jin Hong's shout shook the hearts and minds of the dozens of heaven's favorites. Everyone stared at the thick fog in disbelief. Doubt and suspicion appeared in their eyes. Even if some people were still doubtful, without exception, everyone immediately used energy to protect themselves and began isolating themselves from the fog. The Divine King Realm Death Warriors obeyed. Immediately, multicolored energy waves surged out of their bodies. The beautiful light dyed the forest that was enveloped in fog with multicolored light. However, it was already too late. This was because, along the way, almost half of the people believed that Jianqin was exaggerating. They didn't listen to Jianqin's suggestion of using energy to protect themselves. As a result, they had inhaled large amounts of fog over the past few days. At this moment, the hidden dangers of the fog finally erupted completely. Only 2 breaths after Jin Hong's order was issued, among the group of death warriors, some cultivators began to go crazy, as if their minds had been annihilated. Dark green light burst out from their eyes as they madly attacked their companions nearby. They were like a fuse. Soon after, more and more of the death warriors descended into madness. In a short period of time, their numbers increased from a few to several dozen. Then it increased to several hundred, several thousand, and even 10,000. In the end, the cultivators among the Divine King Realm Death Warriors, who didn't use energy to protect themselves from the fog, all went mad. No one was spared. Immediately, a great battle erupted in the forest. The death warriors who had gone mad could no longer distinguish friend from foe. They began to attack the normal death warriors, while the normal death warriors resisted with all their might. This vast group of several tens of thousands was currently in chaos. They began to kill each other. How can this be? How can this be? When they saw this, many prodigies were stunned. Their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. "Wake up, all of you!" "Awoo!" Jin Hong's face was ashen. His body immediately turned into a small golden wolf king. The blurry image of the ancient sky wolf appeared behind him. Then it let out a howl that resounded through the sky. The howl pierced through metal and stone, shaking people's souls. It attempted to awaken the death warriors who had gone mad. However, it was of no use. He Qianshan's face was also pale. Although all the death warriors of the Tianhe clan had listened to Jianqin's suggestion, and none of them had gone mad, the scene before her still frightened this young lady from a top clan. Chapter 2769. The divine formation of crane feathers was a powerful defensive formation. It was not enough to stop life-devouring beasts, but it could be used to stop the attacks of cultivators. It could be described as an impregnable wall. If several hundred or even over 1,000 sacrificial warriors stood in the divine formation of crane feathers and condensed their strength, they could even stop the attacks of some experts who had just become infinite primes. Those of the Emperor Lotus Sword sect immediately formed the Lotus Sword formation. Those of the Baijan clan quickly formed the Invincible formation. The Sun family, the Lu Tian clan. Afterwards, the other prodigies all returned to their senses and passed down orders. Immediately, powerful defensive formations were rapidly completed, blocking the attacks of the demonic sacrificial warriors. As soon as the formations were formed, the attacks of the demonic sacrificial warriors were no longer a threat to the regular sacrificial warriors. However, in that short moment, close to 1,000 sacrificial warriors had died. It's over, it's over, it's all over, it's all over. Chu Jie and the others had tears streaming down their faces. Their faces were pale and bloodless because not only had all the death warriors under them gone mad, even they themselves had inhaled quite a bit of the gray fog. Even though they hadn't discovered anything wrong with their bodies for the time being, the fate of these death warriors had already cast a shadow over their hearts. None of them knew when they would suddenly become demonic like the sacrificial warriors. A few prodigies had already begun to gulp down various pills in an attempt to expel the mist from their bodies. The appearance of the sacrificial warriors when they went mad truly terrified them, causing them to feel fear. What pained them even more was that the prodigies who had not sucked in the mist with energy had already distanced themselves from them subconsciously. They were secretly on guard as well. Clearly, they were wary of the possibility of them going mad at all times. Even their good friends, who called them brothers, purposefully distanced themselves from them. They did not dare to get too close to them. "Dandin, don't worry. I'll be fine. I have a large number of pills on me. This mere mist won't be able to stop me," a prodigy from a large clan said to a woman beside him with a pale face. "Shao Qi, stay away from me. Don't get close to me." The girl named Dan Dan immediately screamed and distanced herself from him, as if she had seen the god of pestilence. Shao Qi's heart ached, and a deep sense of regret filled his heart. Damn it, if I had known this would happen, I would have chosen to believe in Yang Yutian. To think that in order to save a bit of energy, I would have put myself in such a situation. Damn it, damn it. Shao Qi was so regretful that his intestines turned green. "Young Master Jin Hong, what should we do now? How should we deal with these uncontrollable death warriors?" The Man clan's heaven's pride, Man Yunjun, said in a deep voice. She was a woman who looked to be in her 20s. She was as beautiful as a flower and had a heroic spirit. She was much more outstanding than most of the heaven's prides present. In the face of such an unexpected situation, she was one of the few heaven's prides who could remain calm. Jin Hong didn't say anything because he didn't know how to deal with this. He felt like his head was about to explode. He had already tried, but he couldn't wake up these crazy warriors. If they tried to suppress them by force, they would have to pay a huge price to face tens of thousands of crazy warriors. It might even be so huge that they couldn't bear it. However, if they killed all these people, they would also suffer a huge loss. They would lose a lot of strength and be unable to deal with the unknown danger of the 100 Saint City. "We can't leave this place if we're entangled like this. We can't go on like this. We need to come up with a plan as soon as possible," said Ping Yixing from the Emperor Lotus Sword sect. "Our death warriors will run out of energy one day. Furthermore, we still have to face the threat of the life-sucking beast. We can't waste too much energy here," said Lu Yi from the Lu Tian clan. "We have no other choice now that things have come to this." "Let's kill all the uncontrollable death warriors," said the Heaven's Pride. He was shrouded in a black robe, and his face couldn't be seen clearly. He gave off a sense of mystery. He was a man of few words. He kept a very low profile in the crowd and rarely spoke. However, No one dared to underestimate him because he was the king of the night. He might not have been the strongest in an open battle, but his assassination techniques were enough to make all experts at the same level shiver in fear. That's a good idea, and we need to do it as soon as possible. We've caused far too much of a disturbance here. If the life-sucking beast in the distance is drawn over, we'll be in big trouble. If we're not careful, all of us will die here. Someone immediately agreed. No, we can't kill them. Our clan has raised these death warriors painstakingly. We can't let them die by your hands. You know exactly how valuable the 100 Calamity Divine King Pill is. If you dare to do anything, the clans behind us will never let this go once we leave the world of the fallen beast. They'll definitely seek an explanation from the organization behind you. Gong Rue shrieked and immediately objected. He was extremely agitated. For a moment, everyone was stuck between a rock and a hard place. They were surrounded by over 10,000 death warriors, so they couldn't leave even if they wanted to. 100 kilometers away, a huge eagle circled in the air. Jianqin frowned as he sat on the eagle's broad back. He murmured to himself, "The mist can actually control the divine king's mind. It's even more impressive than I imagined it to be." Jianqin extended his hand, and the space before him suddenly trembled. Large swathes of mist were sucked into his hand, condensing into a thumb-sized white bead in his hand in the end. He stared at the bead and observed it for a long time. Then he released his divine sense and carefully and seriously studied it from the outside to the inside. He wanted to find the secret of the thick fog. However, the secret of the mist was not so easy to discover. Even with Jianqin's soul that had mutated after fusing with a sliver of chaotic force, he did not discover much after a thorough examination. He failed to find a way to break through the mist either. 2 hours later, Jianqin opened his eyes. The white bead in his hand turned into mist again, fusing into the surroundings. It looks like there's basically no way to save the cultivators whose minds have been controlled. Jianqin shook his head and sighed. The senses of his soul had snuck into the souls of the death warriors when they had lost their minds to observe them. As a result, he deeply understood just how difficult it was to deal with the mist. At the very least, he was unable to save the death warriors with his current abilities. At this moment, a drizzle suddenly fell from the sky above the two-world mountain, covering a range of 100 kilometers. No one paid any attention to the rain. They all thought that it was just a regular rain. Jin Hong and the other prodigies used their protective energy to repel the rain, preventing it from touching them. The death warriors who had lost their minds were completely soaked by the rain. What no one noticed was that some of the rain actually seeped into their bodies silently when it touched them. Afterwards, it turned into a clear stream that directly seeped into their blood, meridians, flesh, and souls. The clear stream seemed to possess the power of purification. It could purge some of the evils in the world. Wherever the clear stream passed, the gray mist that the death warriors had absorbed began to disperse. In just a few breaths of time, the movements of the men of sacrifice who were madly attacking the defensive formation became slower and slower. In the end, they gradually came to a stop. The green light in their eyes began to fade, and their eyes began to regain their normal vigor. Nearby, several dozen prodigies were currently discussing whether they should kill the death warriors who had lost control. They noticed the abnormality over here as well, so they all gathered their gazes over. With a single glance, many of them beamed with joy. Look, they've actually woken up. Also, the light in their eyes has returned to normal. This is great. They've finally woken up. Chu Jia couldn't help but cry out in surprise. He began to dance around in excitement. Not only did the awakening of these people mean that there was a way to get out of the mist, but it also meant that the several hundred death warriors under him were back under his control. He no longer needed to be a commander without an army. Chapter 2770. Chu Jia, Kong Feiying, Zhao Wenbin, and more than a dozen other prodigies who did not use any energy to protect their bodies and had ingested a large amount of the gray mist, were all excited. The gloominess on their faces was swept away, and as if they had been given a new lease of life, they let out joyful howls and began to greedily gulp down the rainwater. What did I do just now? I actually attacked my own people. How could I do such a thing? The faces of the death warriors who had regained consciousness were blank. They looked at the blood on their hands and recalled what they had done, and their faces instantly turned pale. They were only death warriors groomed by various large families, and they were very clear about the rules of their respective families. They knew very well how serious the mistake they had just made was, and how disastrous the consequences would be for them. Not only would they die without a doubt, but even their families and clans would be annihilated. Young Lord, please spare me. Young Lord, please spare me. I completely lost my mind just now. I didn't even know what I was doing. Young Lord, please spare me. We had no choice. We couldn't control ourselves. Many of the death warriors began to beg for mercy. They were not afraid of death, because they could only live for 100 years at most, and they were more worried that the people behind them would be implicated. This was because some of them had relatives, wives, children, or families. It was only because of various circumstances that they were forced to do something against their will, such as selling their lives to the top families and being planted with slave imprints, becoming death warriors groomed by the 100 tribulations divine King Dan. Jin Hong's gaze swept across the death warriors, and after a moment of hesitation, he said to the other prodigies, "Since they have all recovered, hurry up and reorganize your troops. This is not a place to stay for long. We need to leave as soon as possible." Yes. Even if there's a big problem, let's put it aside and leave this place first. That huge commotion just now must have alerted the life-sucking beasts in the distance. Who knows? There might be a large group of life-sucking beasts rushing here right now. We need to leave quickly. Leave quickly. Hearing this, many people's hearts tightened, and dozens of prodigies immediately reorganized their troops and left in a hurry. However, after this lesson, none of them dared to conserve their energy. They all conjured up an energy shield to isolate themselves from the thick fog. 100 miles away, Jianqin stood up from the back of the giant eagle. He grabbed at the direction of the group from a great distance. With this grab, the space immediately twisted. Drops of rainwater were sucked into his palm from hundreds of miles away using the law of space, condensing into a thumb-sized water droplet that quietly floated in his palm. His eyes shone brightly like a sharp needle. He wanted to pierce through the water droplet and see through the secrets it contained. However, in his observation, this was just ordinary rainwater. There was nothing special about it. Jianqin would never believe that such ordinary rainwater could cure those men of sacrifice who had lost control. As far as he knew, ordinary rain wouldn't be able to restrain this strange gray fog at all. No, it's not this rainwater. A gleam of light flashed through Jianqin's eyes. He could clearly sense that the rainwater he had absorbed was slightly different from the rainwater that had awakened the sacrificial warriors. It was as if they were two completely different substances. Jianqin continued to grab at the rainwater. In order to understand its secrets, he didn't care so much and prepared to directly take it from the bodies of the men of sacrifice. Jianqin's body suddenly became illusory. From a solid body, he turned into a transparent shadow. Moreover, this shadow was constantly fading. After 2 breaths of time, Jianqin's shadow had completely disappeared. When he disappeared, the condor below him glanced back. A sliver of confusion appeared in its muddy and dull eyes. This was because it could sense that Jianqin was still standing on its back, but it could no longer see Jianqin. Jianqin used the laws of space to enter outer space before arriving before a man of sacrifice 100 kilometers away. He gently touched the man's shoulder with his hand hidden in outer space, and some of the rainwater on the man of sacrifice immediately vanished strangely, landing in Jianqin's hand. However, as soon as the rainwater landed in Jianqin's hand, Jianqin immediately frowned. His soul had once fused with a strand of true chaotic force, so it was different from the rest. His senses were abnormally sharp. allowing him to discover many things that even experts at a higher level of cultivation than him could not. He could clearly sense that the rainwater had undergone some subtle changes when it was about to land in his hand. It felt like something hidden in the rainwater had suddenly vanished. Just as I thought, it's not the rainwater that's allowed these people to recover, but something hidden in the rainwater. It's just a cover, Gentian thought. He was extremely surprised by this discovery, and he could not help but begin to doubt whether the rain was natural or man-made. But what he couldn't understand was, if it was a natural rain, why would there be such a coincidence? Why would some of the strange substances contained in the rainwater suddenly disappear when he tried to absorb the rainwater to understand its secrets? Why would it use the rain as a cover? However, if it was man-made, who would have the ability to hide from his senses in the world of the fallen beast that only cultivators under the age of 1,000 could enter? As for the Darkstar race, their strongest expert was only the Darkstar Emperor. Jianchen was confident that although he might not be the Darkstar Emperor's opponent right now, it was impossible for the Darkstar Emperor to hide from his senses. For a moment, Jianchen remained where he was as he sank into deep thought. The light in his eyes constantly flickered as his expression constantly changed. Only when the group had traveled far away did he leave and return to the eagle. An illusionary figure suddenly appeared in the forest after Gentian had left. The figure was condensed from the power of a soul, so it was only possible to make out that it was a man. He was slender, but his facial features were blurry. The illusionary man hovered in the air like a ghost as he faced Gentian's direction. He seemed to be able to see Gentian's figure sitting on the eagles, back 100 kilometers away. Gentian, this isn't the first time I've heard about you from Wuxin. Now that I've seen you, you really are quite extraordinary. You actually managed to discover the problem with the rainwater. However, even if that's the case, so what? How can a mere infinite prime like you see through something that I've personally taken action? The illusionary man seemed to look at Gentian as he muttered to himself. His voice was filled with admiration and disdain. He did not seem to care about infinite primes at all. He did not take them seriously at all. However, Gentian did not sense anything at all. Even when the senses of his soul constantly enveloped a range of 10 million kilometers, even covering the forest where the illusionary man resided, Gentian failed to discover his existence at all. Afterwards, the illusionary man seemed to look in the direction of Jin Hong and the others. He murmured, "Your cultivations may be weak, and you won't be able to cause any trouble in the saints' world. However, your strength cannot be underestimated in the Darkstar race. The formation formed by the many Death Warriors can even unleash the strength of first or second heavenly layer infinite primes. It's enough to cause a huge storm in the Darkstar race." Chapter 2771. The illusionary man slowly vanished, as if he had returned to the surroundings. He seemed to have fused with the surroundings. His methods were strange, so no one in Two World Mountain could sense his existence. 100 miles away, a gigantic eagle was hovering in the air. Occasionally, it would fly over a gigantic tree that was hundreds of feet tall. The strong wind pressure it brought about caused the leaves on the gigantic trees to break away from the branches and dance in the air. Even some of the smaller trees were uprooted by the wind brought up by the eagle's wings and blown high into the sky. The faint pressure of a beast king radiated from the eagle, causing some of the life-devouring beasts hidden in the forest to flee. These life-devouring beasts did not possess any intelligence, nor did they feel fear. Cultivators were unable to intimidate them at all. However, the life-devouring beasts felt a bone-deep fear towards the presence of a beast king from the eagle. As a result, wherever the eagle passed by, the forest below would become a mess. Many life-devouring beasts fled into the distance, away from the eagle. Jianchen sat silently on the broad back of the eagle. He remained in thought the entire time. Due to the special nature of his soul, he had already noticed some clues from the rainwater. Even though he could not be certain, he had already begun to suspect that the rainwater was not natural. He believed that it was caused by something. Moreover, there were some strange substances mixed in the rainwater. These substances could resolve the hidden dangers of the dense mist, allowing the uncontrollable warriors to recover. Most importantly, whenever Jianchen tried to collect the rainwater with the strange substances, the rainwater would disappear. As a result, the rainwater that landed in his hands would become regular rainwater. Jianchen refused to believe that the wondrous matter had a mind of its own and was avoiding him on its own. Since that was the case, there was only one last possibility, and that was that there was an expert whose cultivation far surpassed his, secretly controlling all of this. If something like this happened in the outside world, there would be nothing wrong with it. However, this was the world of the fallen beast, a place filled with the supreme senses of the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirit clan and the Grand Exalt of the Darkstar clan. Only those under 1,000 years of age could set foot in here. The people of the Darkstar race could not break through to Chaotic Prime due to the suppression of the Grand Exalt of the Wood Spirit races, supreme consciousnesses. The 9th heavenly layer of Infinite Prime was the limit that could be reached in the world of the fallen beast. How could an expert who could hide from him appear in such a special miniature world? This was a question that Jianchen could not understand, no matter how he thought about it. As a result, even though he had his doubts, he was also puzzled. He refused to believe that a supreme expert could sneak in while avoiding the consciousnesses of the Grand Exalts of the Wood Spirit race and Darkstar. This was because he understood the world of the fallen beast more and more. According to his knowledge, even sovereigns of the world who had comprehended the laws of the world to the limit and had basically become the laws of the world would have to endure the attacks of the consciousnesses of the Wood Spirit race and Darkstar race if they wanted to enter here, let alone Grand Primes. Even the supreme sovereigns of the world were like that, let alone those below Grand Exalts. Forget it. Let's not think about that for now. The matter at hand is to leave here as soon as possible and find a way out of Siu. A while later, Jianchen exhaled deeply and dismissed his thoughts. Roar! Suddenly, a great beast roar rang out. It gave off the powerful might of a beast king. A huge tiger-like tiger with a third eye between its eyebrows was standing proudly on top of a huge rock in front of them. It was glaring at the huge eagle that was flying towards it with a pair of extremely unfriendly eyes. This was another late divine king, life-devouring beast king. This region was clearly its territory. Under Jianchen's command, the condor had clearly invaded his territory. Seeing this huge tiger, the big eagle's body stiffened slightly, and its flying speed could not help but slow down. Those turbid eyes revealed a strong sense of fear. What are you afraid of? Fly over there. Jianchen waved his hand on the condor's back, and a surging power surged out, enveloping the condor. Afterwards, the condor approached the tiger uncontrollably. Jianchen was constantly observing the group behind him. They were advancing in a straight line. This was where the main group was going to pass through. Therefore, the obstacles on the way had to be cleared. He wanted the main group to lead him out of the Twin Worlds mountain as soon as possible. The giant tiger seemed to have been greatly provoked. It flew into a rage and let out a heaven-shaking roar. The terrifying sound waves turned into circles of ripples and spread out, shaking all the plants within a radius of 10 miles into powder. Even the ground formed from rocks cracked. Jianchen waved his hand, and the space behind him immediately distorted. He had already set up a spatial barrier to prevent sound from spreading. Otherwise, the tiger's roar would have reached the ears of the main group 100 li away. Once they knew that there was a life-devouring beast king in front of them, the main group would have to change their path, and it would be a waste of time. At this moment, the tiger's third eye suddenly opened. A green light shot towards the condor at lightning speed. It was unbelievably fast. The condor's huge body trembled violently. It seemed to be familiar with the tiger's third eye. When it saw the green light shoot out, it subconsciously turned around and fled. It actually contains the power of the law of curses. After a moment of surprise, Genshin's gaze suddenly turned towards the green light. When he looked over, the green light that was originally faster than lightning suddenly stopped in midair. No, it shouldn't be called a stop. It was still moving forward, but its speed was as slow as a snail's. It was so slow that people would think that the light had stopped. This life-devouring Beast King's strength is not bad, especially that ray of light with the law of curses shot out from its third eye. Its attack power is strong enough to threaten most of the peerless heaven prides on the divine king's throne. No wonder this condor fled at the sight of it. It seems that it has already suffered a lot. Genshin muttered to himself. Then he pointed his finger at the tiger and shouted, "Destroy!" As the word fell, the green light beam shot out by the tiger suddenly collapsed. Then, the tiger's body exploded with a loud bang. At this time, Genshin suddenly frowned and looked towards the place where the tiger had fallen. There, a huge shadow suddenly rose up and gradually condensed into the figure of a giant beast. This giant tiger was also a tiger with a third eye in the middle of its brows. However, its body was much larger, as big as a mountain. The aura it exuded was also earth-shattering. Compared to the life-devouring Beast King, it was more than 100 times stronger. It stared fixedly at Genshin as if it wanted to firmly remember Genshin's presence. A primordial realm, life-devouring beast. I never thought that the life-devouring Beast King I killed would actually have a backer. Genshin sat on the condor calmly as he stared at the colossal beast leisurely. The condor he sat on had already become so frightened that it began to tremble. Its wings were no longer as nimble as before. If it were not for Genshin's power, the condor probably would have collapsed long ago. "I will come and find you. Disperse." "Disperse," Genshin said calmly as he stared at the colossal figure. With a gentle wave of his hand, the colossal figure suddenly disappeared. Chapter 2772. The colossal figure was not the original body of the primordial realm life-devouring beast. Instead, it was similar to a sliver of a cultivator's soul, which was why Genshin could disperse it so easily with just a wave of his hand. With Genshin's current strength, there were very few infinite primes who could pose a threat to him. Even if the primordial realm life-devouring beast came in person, it would not necessarily be Genshin's opponent, let alone a sliver of a soul. Just when Genshin dispersed the primordial realm life-devouring beast's figure, an earth-shaking tiger's roar suddenly rang out from the forest that had exceeded the range of the senses of Genshin's soul. The terrifying sound caused the mountains to tremble and the ground to crack. Layers of sound waves radiated out, wiping out all life in a range of 100 kilometers with devastating power. In a cave that had been reinforced by special energy, a huge shadow suddenly flashed and disappeared. It appeared outside as if it had teleported. It was an extremely huge gray tiger that was 100 meters long. It also had a third eye on its forehead, but it was tightly shut. Only a slit could be seen. In terms of appearance, the tiger was basically the same as the one Genshin had killed before. The only difference was that the difference in size and strength was just too great. The giant tiger's body trembled, and a terrifying power erupted from its body. Suddenly, a thunderous roar filled the sky, and several mountains were directly shaken by this power and collapsed. Its eyes were filled with fury and hatred as it stared in Genshin's direction. Even though it was millions of kilometers away, it seemed to be able to lock onto Genshin's presence with great precision. Afterwards, it leapt up, and the space there immediately exploded. The entire region shook violently and distorted. As if it had smashed through space, the infinite prime tiger had already vanished. It rapidly approached Genshin at a speed that surpassed cruising infinite primes. Its speed was so fast that even if the two places were thousands of miles apart, it wouldn't take too much time. In just a few breaths of time, the tiger's tremendous aura had appeared within the range of Genshin's spiritual sense. It was moving at a speed of several thousand kilometers per second, or even several tens of thousands of kilometers. I was just about to look for you, but I didn't expect you to come here yourself. Tens of thousands of miles away, Jianqin, who had sensed the movement of the giant tiger, murmured to himself. He remained calm as he glanced at the large group 100 miles away. Then he controlled the giant eagle to fly towards the giant tiger at full speed without hesitation. He needed to intercept the primordial realm, life-devouring beast far enough away from the group. The condor flapped its wings and flew at full speed in the sky. Around its body, the space was constantly twisting as if it was being folded. This made the condor fly at a speed over 100 times faster than its original speed. On the other side, the huge group of prodigies from the various peak clans rapidly advanced through the forest. All of them maintained a high level of vigilance, guarding against the sudden, sneak attacks of life-devouring beasts. None of them, including Jinhong, sensed that a terrifying primordial realm, life-devouring beast was currently charging in their direction. He Qianqian stood at the very front of the group with the prodigies. From time to time, she would take out the divine hull Jianqin had given her and carefully sense it. She used the sliver of soul in there to confirm whether Jianqin was still alive or not. He Qianqian could not help but let out a sigh of relief when she sensed that the sliver of power from Jianqin's soul was still in there. At the very least, she knew that Jianqin was still alive. However, she seemed to realize something soon afterwards, and she could not help but worry again. She thought, we've already traveled for so long. We're already far away from where we parted. Yang Yutian, I wonder if you can still catch up to us after such a long distance. He Qianqian, is the power of Yang Yutian's soul still present? Suddenly, Jin Hong looked back at He Qianqian and asked secretly. He Qianqian nodded and said nothing. Jin Hong could not help but smile when he saw that. He said, I was right. Yang Yutian really isn't someone who dies so easily. I think it shouldn't be difficult for him to catch up to us with his laws of space. It's all thanks to fellow Yang Yutian's sacrifice that we were able to escape this time. He lured the life-devouring Beast King away without any regard for his own safety. So he must have gone through a life-threatening situation. If I can still see fellow Yang Yutian after we leave Two World Mountain, I'll have to properly thank him for the rest of my life, said a prodigy from the Emperor Lotus Sword Sect. Fellow Yang Yutian is heroic and courageous. In order to buy enough time for us, he did not hesitate to put himself in danger, facing the late Divine King Realm, life-devouring Beast King all by himself. I, Guang Wanhua, admire him from the bottom of my heart. I have to properly befriend a friend like him, said Guang Wanhua from the Crimson Light clan with sincere admiration. Many of them had been moved by Jianqin's selflessness. They all felt like they owed Jianqin a huge favor for being able to escape, so they all felt grateful. Of course, not everyone was like that. There were also a small number of people who did not care. They looked down on Jianqin's identity as an independent cultivator from the bottom of their hearts. They believed themselves to be of noble status, so it was only right for independent cultivators or servants to do something like risking their lives. I think you've overestimated Yang Yutian. He can temporarily escape the life-devouring Beast King's pursuit by relying on the laws of space. But don't forget that using the laws of space exhausts the power of his soul. The power of his soul is not like origin energy that can be recovered by absorbing divine crystals. Once Yang Yutian's soul is exhausted, it'll probably be his doomsday. Hearing everyone's praise, Gong Rue, who had a grudge against Jianqin in his heart, felt indignant and said coldly, That's right. In my opinion, even if that Yang Yutian is still alive, he's struggling on the verge of death. Right now, he's probably running around Two World Mountain like a dog. Not to mention, looking at him in the future, it won't be long before he'll be sucked dry by the life-devouring Beast King like those dead death warriors. Chu Jie also spoke, his tone vicious. Chu Jie, shut your mouth. Don't forget that the reason we were able to escape from the life-devouring Beast King was all because of Yang Yutian. Speaking of which, he has saved all of us once. He Qian-Qian's face sank as she glared at Chu Jia. Saved all of us? Is he even worthy? Chu Jia disdained. At this moment, a tiger's roar vaguely rang out from the distant horizon. Accompanying it was a pulse of energy and pressure that originated from an unknown distance away. Although the energy wave and pressure had become inaudible after crossing a long distance, there were many experienced and knowledgeable people among the geniuses present. They instantly felt a power from the faint pressure that was different from that of a godly state expert. The primordial realm. It's the primordial realm. Oh no, it's the pressure of the primordial realm. Ping Yixing's face suddenly changed. He had come into contact with many primordial realm experts in his sect, so he had an extremely deep impression of their unique presence and power. It's the life-devouring beast. It's the furious roar of a primordial realm life-devouring beast. There's a primordial realm expert fighting in the distance. Immediately, everyone's faces changed, as they were unable to put up any resistance against the primordial realm life-devouring beast. The formation formed from the divine King Death Warriors was unable to display any advantage at all. With the strength of the primordial realm life-devouring beast and its terrifying ability to devour life force, even if they remained several kilometers away or even several dozen kilometers away from the primordial realm life-devouring beast, their life force would be sucked dry in an extremely short amount of time. Chapter 2773. It looks like there are two primordial realm, life-devouring beasts fighting. If that's the case, we don't have to worry too much. That's right. Although primordial realm, life-devouring beasts can sense extremely far away, they need to devote all their attention to the battle since they encounter opponents of the same level. It's impossible for them to discover us so far away. Some of the Sky Prides noticed something amiss from the subtle energy fluctuations, and their panicked expressions immediately became much calmer, because they had already concluded that the primordial realm life-devouring beasts that appeared in the distance would not pose any threat to them for now, nor would they encounter them in Two World Mountain. When two experts engage in an intense battle, one of them will definitely be injured or even injured. Do you think we should go over and observe the situation? We might even be able to pick up a great deal. The flesh and blood of a primordial realm, life-devouring beast is a priceless treasure. Suddenly, a prodigy said as excitement and greed filled his eyes. The faces of the others immediately darkened when they heard that. They stared at the person who had spoken with ill intent. They did not even have the time to avoid the primordial realm, life-devouring beast. Yet there was actually someone who was fearless enough to approach it. He was basically tired of living. Of course, not everyone was like that. There were a few prodigies whose eyes lit up. They thought that nothing ventured, nothing gained, and they said, that's a good idea. Although the primordial realm, life-devouring beast's ability to devour life force is extremely great, there's a limit to it. As long as we stay away from it, its ability to devour life force won't be able to do anything to us. Moreover, they've all met their opponents and are focused on fighting. Their perception of their surroundings has been reduced to the lowest, so they won't be able to discover us. Everyone, think about it. Just how valuable is the flesh and blood of a primordial realm, life-devouring beast? If you add a little flesh and blood of a primordial realm, life-devouring beast into a high-grade pill, both the pill's quality and effects will increase by 30%. Once a divine pill reaches the rank of high grade, it is already priceless. If its medicinal strength is increased by a little on this basis, I believe everyone is very clear in their hearts how precious it is. Wealth comes from danger. What's in front of us is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The prodigies who coveted the primordial realm life-devouring beast's whiskers tried their best to convince everyone to hunt it down. This was because the temptation of the flesh and blood of the primordial realm life-devouring beast was just too great. Although it could not directly increase their strength, if they handed over a portion to the clan, it would be a great contribution. They might even be personally rewarded by the ancestor, and their status in the clan would skyrocket. Although they were all heaven's prides from the top clans, some of them didn't necessarily have a high status in their clans. It was only because one of their ancestors held the position of Grand Elder in their clans that they had a certain status in their clans. However, there were plenty of people who had a higher status than them in the younger generation. There were even some supreme prodigies who were valued by the ancestors. Be it cultivation speed or battle prowess, they were not any weaker than them. It was only because they were older than the 1,000-year-old age limit for entering the world of the fallen beast that they missed out on this opportunity. As a result, these people had the chance to enter the world of the fallen beast and perform meritorious deeds for their clans. As a result, some of them were so interested in the flesh and blood of the primordial realm, life-devouring beast. The difference between the primordial realm and godhood was a qualitative change. No matter how much flesh they obtained from God-King life-devouring beasts, it was nowhere close to a finger-sized piece of primordial realm life-devouring beast meat. The light in He-Chan-Chan's eyes flickered as well. She hesitated. Clearly, she was rather tempted. This was because the heavenly Crane Divine Hall was in great need of the primordial realm life-devouring beast's flesh and blood. They were not using it to refine high-grade pills. Instead, they were using it to refine supreme-grade pills, which were of an even higher grade, for an important figure to consume. The He ancestor still hasn't recovered from his wounds in the past. Regular supreme-grade pills won't be of much use to his wounds. Only by adding some flesh and blood of the primordial realm life-devouring beast into the supreme-grade pills will the pills become even more effective. Only then might it be of some help to the He ancestor, thought He-Chan-Chan. She understood that the life-devouring beasts could be said to have been created by grand exalts of the Wood Spirit Clan. They possessed a shred of the laws of the Wood Spirit Clan's grand exalt. This was a type of life energy, which was why it was extremely effective when used to refine pills. It could turn something rotten into something wondrous. Young Master Jin Hong, do you think we should take the risk? He-Chan-Chan looked at Jin Hong. She desired some flesh and blood of the primordial realm, life-devouring beast very much, so that she could use it to refine supreme-grade pills to heal the He ancestor. Take the risk? Humph. I'm certain that as long as we approach that place, we'll all be wiped out. He-Chan-Chan, I see that you're rather calm normally. Why have you become so muddle-headed now? Jin Hong snorted coldly. He looked at the people whose eyes lit up with a sunken gaze and said sternly, "Don't say that I didn't warn you. The life-devouring beast is not a cultivator. It's an infinite prime on the brink of death. If you work together, you might be able to threaten it. However, even if an infinite prime's life is hanging by a thread, it can still absorb all of your energy from several hundred kilometers away. If you dare to approach it, I can guarantee that you'll die before you even see the primordial realm life-devouring beast. That's all I've said. Do your best. If you still want the life-devouring beast, I, Jin Hong, won't stop you." With that, Jin Hong left with a few people and a large number of sacrificial warriors. Clearly, he planned on retreating as soon as possible and distancing himself from the primordial realm life-devouring beast. He-Chan-Chan glanced in the direction of the ripples of energy unwillingly. Gritting her teeth, she left with the group as well. As for the prodigies who desired the flesh and blood of the primordial realm life-devouring beast, the burning light in their eyes gradually faded away. They also left with regret and reluctance. Several million kilometers away, Jianqin encountered the primordial realm life-devouring beast along the way. They did not communicate at all. As soon as the primordial realm life-devouring beast saw Jianqin, its eyes burned with hatred as it began to fight with Jianqin. Jianqin hovered in the air as sword light flickered around him. Enveloped by the light, he seemed like a silver ball of light from afar, where only his figure could be seen vaguely. He hovered in the surroundings as he radiated with surging sword chi. With just a raise of his hand, he could direct the sword chi towards the primordial realm life-devouring beast. Everything in the world could be used as a sword in his hand. The primordial realm, life-devouring beast's attacks were much more monotonous. It did not know any battle skills or secret techniques, nor did it know any techniques. It seemed rather clumsy when it attacked, using its huge claws and sharp teeth to attack. However, it was still at the primordial realm after all. It possessed surging energy, so even though it did not know much about how to use energy, its attacks were extremely shocking every time it struck out. Moreover, it constantly gave off a wondrous suction. The suction was so great that it specialized in devouring life. Even weaker infinite primes would not be able to lock down their life force before it. It would constantly devour it. This primordial realm life-devouring beast is roughly on the level of a third heavenly layer infinite prime, but I'll need a fourth heavenly layer expert at the very least to defeat it. As for third heavenly layer experts, they'll struggle to lock down their life force before it, Jianqin thought as he became rather stern. This was because he could vaguely sense his life force being devoured when he faced the life-devouring beast with his current cultivation. He could only protect himself with everything he had, casting down 2 layers of protection with chaotic force and the laws of the sword. Only then could he prevent his life force from leaking out. His battle prowess had completely surpassed the life-devouring beast. In the past, he could even kill 9th heavenly layer infinite primes with the 9-star sword of heavenly ways. Even without the 9-star sword of heavenly ways, his battle prowess had plummeted, but he was still an expert among infinite primes. Chapter 2774. As a result, the primordial realm life-devouring beast's unique ability to devour life force was enough to affect Jianqin to a certain extent. With my current strength, I can kill 6th heavenly layer infinite primes, even without the 9-star sword of heavenly ways. However, if I come across a 6th heavenly layer infinite prime life-devouring beast in 2-World Mountain, I'll probably be the one to lose, Jianqin thought. Among the life-devouring beasts he had come across before, the strongest was only a peak divine king. To Jianqin, who had comprehended the ultimate way of the sword, no matter how extraordinary the divine king was, they were no different from ants. He could slay them with a single thought with the will of his ultimate way of the sword. As a result, he had never clearly understood the strength of life-devouring beasts. Only now, when he personally faced a primordial realm life-devouring beast, did he truly understand just how difficult it was to deal with. Just a 3rd heavenly layer infinite prime life-devouring beast required him to use his full strength to seal off his life force. If he encountered a 4th heavenly layer or 5th heavenly layer infinite prime life-devouring beast, would he still be able to seal off his life force? Once he could not seal off his life force would drain away as he fought. Even if the life force of primordial realm experts was extremely abundant, they would not be able to endure it after a long battle. Moreover, life-devouring beasts would constantly increase their strength as they devoured life force. As a result, they would become even more difficult to deal with. Infinite Prime is the highest realm of cultivation in this world. No one should have killed an infinite prime life-devouring beast yet. If I kill this life-devouring beast and take its corpse back to the Saint's world, it should be extremely valuable, Jianqin thought to himself. Jianqin's eyes gradually lit up as he stared at the primordial realm life-devouring beast that constantly attacked. He began to scheme inside. He had long heard that the life-sucking beast's flesh was an excellent material to refine all kinds of divine pellets. As long as a little bit of the life-sucking beast's flesh was added to the divine pellet, it would greatly enhance the efficacy of the divine pellet. Now that the Tianyuan family had developed to a certain scale, they had also begun to set up the alchemy hall. It could be expected that in the future there would be a large number of divine pills of various ranks coming out from the Tianyuan family's alchemy hall, and the life-sucking beast meat that could enhance the medicinal efficacy of these pills was exactly what the Tianyuan family needed. When he thought up to there, cold-killing intent suddenly appeared in Jianqin's eyes. He did not plan on killing the primordial realm life-devouring beast in the beginning. He only wanted to stop it from posing a threat to the group. Now that he understood the value of the primordial realm life-devouring beast, he immediately changed his mind. Deafening booms rang out incessantly in the mountain forest. Powerful energy waves wreaked havoc in the surroundings, raising everything within a radius of several hundred kilometers to the ground. All the vegetation was either uprooted from the ground and sent flying into the distance or turned to ash in the terrifying storm. Huge craters appeared on the ground one after another. Countless cracks crisscrossed together, forming a chasm that was as dense as a spider's web. This was all caused by the primordial realm life-devouring beast. Every single strike from it possessed tremendous power, enough to shatter the surroundings. With a swipe of its huge claws, huge craters would appear. With a swing of its tail, powerful energy would strike the ground, creating huge trenches that spanned several dozen kilometers. The entire forest had been reduced to a mess under its crazy attacks. Countless life-devouring beasts fled into the distance in a panic. Several hundred kilometers away, the condor gentian had spread its wings and fled frantically. Its eyes were filled with fear as if it had been greatly frightened. Gentian flickered in and out of existence on the battlefield. Every time he appeared, he would move around like he was teleporting, dodging the life-devouring beast's attacks with ease and ease. With his current strength and the assistance of the laws of space, if he wanted to, the life-devouring beast would never be able to touch Gentian's clothes, even if it spent its entire life attacking him. Thump! An explosion rang out in the air as a black figure tore through the air. It shot toward Gentian with lightning speed. This was the tail of a primordial realm life-devouring beast. The huge tail was several dozen meters long and flickered with the light of energy. As it swung over, the tail extended endlessly, reaching over 1,000 meters in a single instance. Gentian did not take an attack like this seriously. He had dodged it several times before. However, this time he did not dodge like before. Instead, he hovered in the air with one hand behind his back as killing intent surged in his eyes. Just as the huge tiger tail was about to hit his body, he suddenly waved his right hand toward the sky. Suddenly, an extremely dazzling streak of white light shot out with a swish, turning into a huge strand of sword chi. It shone with dazzling light as it directly slashed towards the life-devouring beast's tail. The sword chi was extremely fast, so fast that it was indescribable. It seemed to have transcended time and space, completely unaffected by the restrictions of space and distance. In just a flash, it flashed past the tiger's tail with lightning speed. The powerful tail of the primordial realm life-devouring beast was as fragile as paper before the sword chi. As the sword chi passed by, the tail was severed as well. Suddenly, a huge tail fell from the sky. It was 200 to 300 meters long and 10 feet thick. It fell to the ground like a small city wall. The tail was a portion of the primordial realm life-devouring beast's flesh. It was a precious item that many prodigies desired, but none of them possessed the ability to obtain. Now it had been cut down so easily by Gentian, lying on the ground silently. A space ring immediately flew out from Gentian's hand, collecting the tail. The flesh of a primordial realm life-devouring beast was not as cheap as the flesh of a godhood life-devouring beast. He could not waste any of it. On the other side, the primordial realm life-devouring beast could not help but wail out from the intense pain of having its tail severed. Its voice was deep, but it was filled with madness after the pain. Not only did the wound fail to make it fear Gentian at all, but it had instead roused its bestial nature, making it even crazier and more bloodthirsty. It produced a great roar and bared its sharp fangs, biting towards Gentian. At the same time, the surging life force in its body also surged wildly. The broken tail was actually growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gentian formed a sword with his fingers, and a resplendent strand of sword chi shot out. Like a streak of light, It directly entered the primordial realm life-devouring beast's mouth, piercing through its entire body and leaving behind a fist-sized hole. Wounds like this were not light wounds to other cultivators, but they were nothing to the primordial realm life-devouring beast that possessed tremendous life force. It was no different from an itch. Under the healing power of the enormous life force in its body, the injuries on its body were quickly healed. Its recovery rate was so great that even Genshin's chaotic body paled in comparison. What powerful life force! This life force has reached an extremely high level. Genshin sighed in amazement. Even Genshin could not help but sigh in amazement when he saw this. However, he was not surprised, as he knew that the two-world mountain and the life-devouring beast in it could be said to have been created by the grand exalt of the Wood Spirit clan. Killing this primordial realm life-devouring beast is no longer as easy as killing the godhood life-devouring beasts, nor can I sever all of its life force with a single strike. I need to completely destroy it with absolute power and at a speed that far exceeds its recovery rate. I have to cut it into pieces and seal the pieces one by one. Only then can I kill it, Genshin thought. Although it was possible to kill the life-devouring beast by exhausting all of its life force, the primordial realm life-devouring beast was extremely precious. Life-devouring beasts were precious because of the pure and tremendous life force within them.